What if Harry Potter never stayed in the wizarding world? What if, after years of pain and secrets, he moved to the quiet town of Forks and met Bella Swan before Edward Cullen ever did? Two outsiders, two broken lives, one rainy town hiding monsters in the dark. But this time, Bella's story would not begin with a vampire. It would begin with the boy who lived and the magic he brought with him. Subscribe if you are new on this channel. Also, if you love the Twilight, supernaturals, and Harry Potter theories, what ifs, please let me know on comment box. Also, if you have any story suggestions, feel free to write below. Now let's start.
The rain had started somewhere over the Atlantic, and by every appearance, had no intention of stopping. Harry Potter stood with his coat collar up and his duffel at his feet in the arrivals corridor of SeaTac, watching the sliding doors open and close on a charcoal sky. A woman with a terrier and a carrier looked at him twice and decided he wasn't interesting. A tall man in a plaid shirt and a reflective vest held a cardboard sign for somebody else. The smell was jet fuel, wet asphalt, and somewhere underneath, cedar. Harry breathed the cedar in and let out a breath he felt he had been holding since the war. He hadn't taken the portkey. He had wanted for once in his life to arrive the way anyone would arrive, by plane, with a boarding pass crumpled in his pocket and a carry-on full of Muggle clothes. He had wanted the small indignity of customs. He had wanted to hear the overhead announcements and smell the burnt coffee from the kiosks and pretend, for 9 hours, that he was only a young Englishman taking a year off to paint watercolors in a corner of Washington state no one could place on a map. He had packed 2 books he intended to read, 3 jumpers, a pair of boots better suited to mud than anything, and the holly and phoenix feather wound up the inside of his left sleeve. Pinned into the lining of his coat was the cloak. On his right hand, the blunt black stone of the resurrection ring sat in a plain band, wound with a charm he had spent the better part of a month getting right. Nobody who met him would think anything of the ring. They wouldn't think anything of him either. Not here, not in this country, in a town whose name he had chosen off a map because it was small and green and had mountains on every side. "Any bags, sir?" a TSA agent asked because he had stopped in the wrong place. "No," Harry said. "Thank you." He walked out into the rain. It had taken 3 letters, 1 fumbled phone call, and a small, honest lie about being 20 and not 21 to rent the house. He had bought it in the end through a Muggle solicitor who thought Harry was the grandson of a man long dead and who did not ask questions, because lawyers who do not ask questions are paid better. The money had come through a vault in London and a bank in Seattle, and at some point in the transit between the two, it had ceased to be interesting to anyone but the machine that moved it. The house sat on a slope above the 101, set back into a stand of cedars a mile outside of Forks. Harry drove up to it in a black pickup he had purchased the same afternoon, fishtailing gently on the gravel. The truck was 10 years old, paid in cash, and, according to the man he had bought it from, had once taken a deer on the bumper without blinking. He liked that. He liked that it was heavy and patient and smelled like the last man's cigarettes. He pulled into the drive and cut the engine and sat for a moment with his hands on the wheel. The wipers stopped. The rain kept going. It was a small house, a shingled porch. A front door the color of old green bottles. A stone chimney capped with a pair of crows who, on sighting him, took off into the branches and complained. He got out. The rain was polite and relentless. He set his duffel on the porch and stood in the open door of the truck a moment, listening. He listened with his ears, and he listened with the other thing, the inside listening, the one the Aurors had honed into him over 2 years of training that had taken place mostly at 3 in the morning in fields far from home. There were people in the town, half a mile off. There were animals in the trees. There was no malice near him now. There was a staleness, though, far off, upwind toward the river. Harry filed it away and went inside. The house had been cleaned thinly by whatever agency the solicitor had used. A kettle sat on the hob. A plastic-wrapped mattress stood in the main bedroom. There were lights in the ceilings that didn't turn on at first try and then decided to. The wood floors creaked when he walked through them, and somewhere in a wall a pipe ticked with the pleasure of having work to do. He set his bag down and let the wand slip into his hand. The first wards were laid with patience, quietly, room by room. He was not going to be a man hiding behind walls, not here, not again, but he was not a fool either. There were things in the world that would look for him still. There was always the risk. He drew the perimeter twice and then once more, binding it to the house itself and letting it settle into the damp soil, protego domus. Fidelius, no, not Fidelius, not yet, something lighter. Notice me not, smooth to indifference, a suggestion that this house was the kind of house you didn't bother with. A hint at the gate that any stranger approaching with bad intentions would experience, halfway up the drive, the sudden unignorable need to turn around. He did not ward himself in, exactly. The wards allowed him to breathe. He put the kettle on because it was in the kitchen and it would be rude to the house not to, and while it was heating he stood at the front window and looked at the trees. Cedars, firs, hemlocks in their weight of needles. Light fell through them in long gray hairs. The air was the color of slate. Somewhere further back and higher up he could smell wood smoke where no wood smoke was. "Hello, then," he said, to nobody in particular, and the wards around the house gave a small, satisfied hum. He did not unpack. He ate a piece of bread and a square of cheese standing at the counter. Then he pulled his coat back on and went into town. Forks at 3 in the afternoon was quieter than he had imagined a town could be. There was a gas station with 2 pumps and a board outside reminding drivers to chain up in season. There was a diner whose windows were fogged by pies cooling on sills. There was a hardware store with a porch like an old western. He drove past a school, low brick and glass, a parking lot with fewer cars than he had expected, a single yellow bus parked at an angle near the loading zone, and filed the sight because it would matter soon. He parked at the hardware store and went in because the house had needed nails and batteries and a bucket, and because he wanted to see somebody and be seen by them without it meaning anything. The bell over the door rang a dry brass note. The man behind the counter, reading a paperback western, looked up, nodded, and went back to his book. Harry walked the aisles. He picked up a box of nails and a headlamp and a pair of work gloves and at the back a roll of thick wire. He was making for the counter when he ran, very gently, into another customer at the corner where the plumbing aisle met the tools. The other customer was a tall man in a khaki jacket with a sheriff's star over the left breast. He had a careful mustache and the patient look of a man who had spent years standing in other people's kitchens being lied to politely. They both made the small apologetic sounds Americans and Englishmen make when they would rather be anywhere else. "Sorry," said the sheriff. "Wasn't looking." "My fault entirely," said Harry. "New in town, I keep thinking the aisles run the other way." The sheriff's eyebrows moved up, interested. "English, guilty, passing through?" "No, sir," Harry said, and enjoyed very slightly the way Sir felt in his mouth. "Just moved in, up off the 101. "The old Sutter place? That's the one." "Good house," said the sheriff. "Bad drive, chain up early this year, you want a hand getting that out." He meant the roll of wire, which Harry had indeed begun to drop. Harry smiled, shifted his weight, and caught it cleanly. "Got it, thanks." "Charlie Swan," said the sheriff, putting out a hand. "Harry," said Harry, after a half-beat in which he almost didn't say his last name, and then did because it was the deal he had made with himself. "Harry Potter." Charlie's hand was dry and warm. He had a policeman's way of shaking, brief, firm, and then gone. "Welcome to Forks, Harry Potter." His eyes did a quick pass over Harry's face and took in the glasses and the rain in his hair and the way his coat sat on his shoulders. They did not take in anything else. Harry appreciated it. "You all squared away?" "Mostly. Needed nails. Always do." Charlie watched him pay with no particular intent, the way any old-town lawman watches a new face at a counter. He did not seem suspicious. He seemed, if anything, quietly glad of something to do. When Harry turned to go, Charlie nodded at the box under Harry's arm. "You need anything else, stop in at the station. My daughter gets in Friday," he added, not quite meaning to, the way a man says a thing because it has been on his mind. "She's moving down from her mom's." I figure she'll like someone her own age around who isn't on the football team. How old? Harry asked because it was the polite question. 17, senior. I might stop by the school, actually, Harry said, if it's open to late enrollments. Charlie looked pleased and tried faintly not to. It is? All right then. All right. They left the hardware store separately. Harry loaded his truck in the rain. Charlie stood under the eave a moment and watched him finish, not saying anything, and then Harry raised a hand in parting and Charlie raised one back. Harry drove home and found he was smiling, very slightly. He hadn't been sure he remembered how. The first night in the house he slept badly, not because of the house, which settled around him like a patient animal, not because of the rain, which he had always found the kindest kind of noise. Because of the dreams. He dreamed of smoke. He dreamed of the corridor outside the great hall and of bodies laid out in a line. He dreamed of Remus's open hand and of Fred's face turned to the side. He dreamed of Hermione pulling him back from the edge of the lake where he was trying to walk into it and calling his name over and over until he came back to himself. He woke at 4 and sat up and did not go back to sleep. He put the kettle on and sat with a mug on the porch and watched the dark thin out in the trees. The cedars dripped. A raccoon appeared at the edge of the clearing, looked him dead in the eye, and decided he was not worth its time. The inside listening came open without him asking for it, the way a door swings open on old hinges when the wind shifts. Somewhere south-southwest he felt a presence. Cold, still. A house that had held other presences and still smelled of them, though the presences themselves had been gone for months. Harry set his mug down. Vampires, he said. He said it the way a man identifies a bird by its call, not afraid, not curious particularly, noting a fact about the neighborhood. There was no malice in the trace. Whatever coven had lived in that direction had been orderly, patient, reluctant, the kind of monster that chose to be something else. He had read about them in the old books Hermione had dragged out during the second year of Auror training when she had been cross-referencing dark creatures for a paper nobody had asked her to write. Vegetarian vampires, diet of animals, a Scottish joke and then not a joke. They were not unheard of. They were not common either. He held the trace a moment longer to see if it moved. It did not. Wherever they had been gone for a while. He let it go and went back inside. He was unfolding a sheet for the couch when the knock came at the door. Harry went still. It was 6 in the morning. The rain had softened. The sun was not up, a human presence at the door. One, nervous but not hostile, boots on the porch, a light knuckle twice and then a pause and then a clearing of a throat. Harry crossed the room and opened the door, the wand up his left sleeve as easy as breath. A young deputy stood on the porch. He was maybe 24, sandy-haired, rain-slicked, with a duty belt and a coffee cup and the unfortunate dignity of a man who has had to knock on a stranger's door at dawn. Harry recognized him without having seen him before. He had the Forks look, the one Charlie had, except the deputy wore it in soft pencil while Charlie wore it in ink. "Morning, sir," the deputy said. "Sorry, didn't mean to wake you. I saw the light. I figured I'd ask." "I'm up," Harry said. "What's happening?" "You're Mr. Potter?" Harry, "Yes." "Lloyd, Deputy Lloyd, over at the station. Chief said you moved in yesterday." Lloyd adjusted his duty belt, embarrassed and trying not to be. "I wouldn't bug you, but we've had some folks poking around the old Cullen place across the river and Chief wanted eyes on it, and since you're the closest, the Cullen place. Big empty house about 1.5 miles that-a-way through the woods. The family left about a year back. Anyway, neighbor called it in, lights on in the upper windows after full dark last night for maybe 2 minutes, then out. I went through at midnight and didn't see nothing, but the doors weren't locked the way they were supposed to be." Lloyd took a careful sip of coffee. "I figured long shot, maybe you were out walking, maybe you saw something?" "I wasn't out walking," Harry said, and the cold trace from before clarified itself in his head into something closer to a sound, not a coven, not residents, something else, somebody passing through the old house. "1, maybe 2, he kept his face carefully empty. "I'll keep an eye out," Harry said, "for what it's worth." "Appreciate it." Lloyd hesitated. "Sir, I don't want to put a thing in your head, but if you see lights over there or folks you don't know, you call the station." Don't play at anything." The family who lived there, Dr. Cullen and his kids, they were good people. I don't want bad neighbors moving in on their house. Understood. All right then. Lloyd turned to go and then paused and then, because he was young and a little sleep-stupid, said, "Real quiet out here, huh?" "Very. Okay, welcome to Forks, Mr. Potter." "Thank you." Harry watched him go down the drive, the cruiser's lights twinkling faintly as it turned onto the 101. When Lloyd was gone, Harry stood a long time in the open door, looking at the trees, feeling the rain. He was calm, he was tired, but that was an old friend, the Cullen place, Dr. Cullen and his kids. Lloyd had not meant anything by it, but the way he had said doctor had been reverent, the way ordinary people in ordinary towns sometimes spoke of the rare person who came into their lives and left them better. Harry filed that too, a vampire who was a doctor, a coven that had earned affection. And now, 1 year after that coven had left, someone had come into the house in the middle of the night, turned on lights for 2 minutes and left, not residents. Not passing through, scouting, he shut the door. He made coffee, because tea was for the evenings, and stood at the kitchen window drinking it while the sky changed from slate to pewter. He thought about the daughter Charlie had mentioned, coming in on Friday, and about the school he was going to visit today, and about the patient, indifferent, empty house across the river where someone had stood last night in an upper window and looked out at the water. He thought about the wand up his sleeve. He thought about the cloak in his coat. He thought, very briefly, of Hermione's face when she had said goodbye at the port in Dover, the wind pulling her hair across her mouth, her hand on his arm. "Promise me, Harry. Promise me you'll try to be boring." "I'll try," he had said. She had laughed without a sound, the way she laughed when she didn't believe a word he said. "You'll try." He set the mug in the sink. "I'll try," Harry said, to the window and the cedars and the rain, and he could almost hear her answering. The school accepted his enrollment with a speed that bordered on affection. The woman at the front desk, Mrs. Cope, a red-cheeked, kind-mouthed woman with half-moon glasses on a chain, was thrilled to have a new student. The English accent helped. So did the transcripts, which had been forged by a contact in the ministry with decades of experience forging things under less pleasant pressure. Harry was, as far as the record was concerned, a 17-year-old transfer from a British boarding school outside Exeter. The boarding school existed. The headmaster existed. If anyone called the headmaster, who was a cousin of a wizard Harry had once saved from a rogue boggart, would say exactly what was on the transcripts and nothing else. "Mr. Potter, oh, how lovely," Mrs. Cope said, sliding a schedule across the desk to him. "You'll start Monday. You'll want to see the nurse about your immunization records, but we can do that. Oh, bless, your name is like the book, isn't it? I always liked those books. I never got very far, but it's a common name back home," Harry said gravely. "Of course it is. Now, I have you in biology second period, so you'll want to get to Mr. Banner's room before the bell. The dissection is next week. And we have another new student starting Monday, Chief Swan's daughter, Isabella. Oh, isn't it good when we get two at once? They can be new together." "Yes, ma'am," Harry said. He walked out into the parking lot with a locker combination in one pocket and a map of the school in the other. It had stopped raining. There was a strange, reluctant brightness low in the west, where the sun was trying to do something polite about the day. He stood in the lot and looked up at the ridge to the south where, if the map in his head was right, the old Cullen house sat on the far side of the river. The inside listening opened, gently. Nothing new, but the stale trace was there still, fainter. A ring left on a table where a glass had sat. Somebody had walked through the Cullen house last night and had not entirely left. Harry made a decision he had been making quietly since Lloyd had knocked on the door. He was going to walk over and look. He was going to do it today in the late afternoon, before he had to meet anyone, before Friday, before a girl named Isabella arrived and the small shape of a life began to form here. Because the life would not be a life if there were impatient things in the woods near his door, and because Harry Potter, whatever else he was going to become in this town, a polite English boy with boring hobbies. An ordinary senior with an ordinary locker was not going to be a man who pretended not to notice. He got into the truck. He drove home and changed into boots. He put the wand in his hand, the cloak over his shoulders, the ring warm on his finger, and walked out into the trees. Behind him, the wards hummed, pleased to be working. Ahead of him, the cedars rose and the river ran dark. He moved between them like a man who had done this before, because he had, and because in Forks, Washington, on the first full day of his new life, he had no intention of being surprised by anything the woods had to give. Chapter 1 End Chapter 2 Forks High. The Cullen house had been a disappointment and a relief both. Harry had walked through it the afternoon before school started, boots quiet on hardwood, wand in his hand, cloak looped loose at his shoulders for decency's sake. The house was a museum. Glass and stone and the careful modern architecture of a family that had not wanted to live in anything that belonged to a particular century. The kitchen was spotless and unused in a way only vampire kitchens can be. A grand piano stood in the living room. A silver-framed photograph on the mantel showed 7 pale faces who all looked 28, if you counted the man at the back, whose hand rested on a woman's shoulder with the weight of a century of marriage. Harry had stood a long time in front of that mantel. Somebody had opened a drawer in the study. Somebody had leaned on the piano. Somebody had put a finger to the glass of the back window lightly and looked out at the river. It had not been a Cullen. The trace was wrong for a Cullen. He did not know what it had been yet, but it was not malignant, only watchful. An inventory taker, he had left the house the way he had found it. He had warded the property line without meaning to. A gentle invitation placed over the whole acreage, a reminder to anyone who might slip through in the night that this piece of earth was noticed. Anyone with bad intent would find the notice growing teeth. Anyone with good intent would not feel it at all. He had gone home. He had slept better than the first night, not because nothing was coming, he knew better than that, but because he had looked at the coming thing in the face and found its shape. Monday arrived in mist and drizzle. He got up at 6 and made coffee, stood at the kitchen window and watched the cedars give up their night rain, and decided, against his better judgment, to actually try. It was, he thought on the drive-in, one of the great absurd moments of his life. He had walked into a ministry fortress with 12 oars behind him when he was 19, and he had walked back out of it with 8 of those oars and a handcuffed warlord in front of him. And none of that had made his hands sweat the way pulling into the Forks High parking lot in a pickup made them sweat now. He found a spot. He killed the engine. He sat a moment with his wrists resting on the wheel. Parents' cars were leaving in a line up the drive. Students were crossing the lot in 2s and 3s, jackets over their heads, laughing at nothing. The inside listening took stock. No vampires, no shifters, no malice. Only the ordinary, dense, breathing presence of 300 teenagers who had no idea the world had a wall behind it. He tucked his glasses up the bridge of his nose and got out of the truck. "You're new." The voice came from his left. He turned and found a boy with sandy hair and a camera around his neck, a puffer vest, and the kind of grin that wanted you to like it more than it wanted to like you. "I'm new." Harry said, "Mike Newton." The boy put out a hand. "My parents own the sports store. You staying with family?" "On my own." "No way." "Yes way." "That's awesome," Mike said, and said it in the tone of a boy who thought "on my own" meant something cooler than it ever meant. "Where you from?" "England." "Exeter?" "The forged school, not the real one." Harry had said the name twice to himself in the mirror that morning to make sure the lie would come out with all the easy consonants a truth would have. "That's awesome." "I love your accent, man. Everybody's going to love your accent. You want a tour?" "I can show you the math wing. It's a maze. I'm in Senior Ben's section. We both have calc first, but homeroom's that way by the gym." "Thanks," Harry said, and somehow, by virtue of Mike's persistence and his own preference for letting friendly people do what they needed to do, was absorbed into a small flock of seniors drifting toward the east entrance. Jessica Stanley attached herself to Mike's elbow without looking at Mike because she had seen Harry. She talked faster when she was looking past who she was talking to. Eric Yorkie tried with an English-accented hello to earn good-natured laughter and got it. Angela Weber, the kind girl with the heavy eyebrows and the still mouth, offered him a genuine nod across the crowd and went back to her book. Harry let himself be carried. He was, he realized with a small and private shock, having a good time. The first 3 periods passed in a blur of shallow introductions and teachers, who gave him the small, relieved nods of adults who had been afraid he would be a problem and were now allowed to teach. Calculus was Mr. Varner, who did not believe Harry could do the homework until Harry finished 3 problems at the board in a minute and a half, at which point Mr. Varner decided Harry was an English exchange student and not a personal insult. English was Mrs. Harper, who was reading Wuthering Heights at a glacial pace and who was delighted to find a senior in her room with the accent of the novel. Jim was Coach Clapp. Coach Clapp wanted nothing from Harry except that he change out, sit on the bleachers, and not die. Biology was 4th. He had been told to go to room 7. He got there early. Mr. Banner had the shades half up and a slide tray on his desk and a coffee cooling in its mug. There was a Punnett square on the chalkboard left over from last period. There were 12 lab tables in 3 rows, each seating 2. Mr. Banner, who looked like a small bearded Santa, gestured Harry to a lab table in the back and said, not unkindly, "That's yours for the semester. Your partner starts today, too." "Okay," said Harry. The bell had rung. Students came in by 2s and 3s. Mike Newton saw him and raised a hand, mouthed lab table, and slid into the front row where Jessica, already there, had saved him the stool. The classroom filled. Then Isabella Swan walked in. She walked in late, not late enough for it to matter, just late enough for her body to be moving at the precise speed of late when she came around the corner. She had dark hair pulled back, an old jacket, a notebook held across her chest like armor, cheeks pinked by the wet air outside and by something else. She came down the aisle with the bright, hunted look of a girl who has realized she has forgotten to be anyone in particular. She saw the empty stool next to Harry. She kept coming. "Miss Swan," said Mr. Banner, more a welcome than a reproof. "Sorry. Back there, please. You'll be Mr. Potter's partner. Mr. Potter, Miss Swan." "Hi," Harry said, standing and offering a hand without thinking about it, because an Englishman offers a hand on an introduction like a Frenchman offers 2 cheeks. Bella hesitated a blink, then took his hand. He felt her flinch slightly and then settle. "Hi," she said. She sat. She put her notebook on the table. She did not look at him again for a while. She did look, with the private attention of a girl whose attention had been trained by a father whose job was attention, at the way he sat, spine straight, forearms loose on the table, shoulders easy, and she looked at the old scar that ran thin and silver under his jaw where a curse had cut him in his 2nd year of Auror training, which she could not possibly know about, and she looked at his hands, which were calloused in a way boys her own age did not yet have hands. "Today," said Mr. Banner, "we are completing the onion root mitosis lab. You should each have a microscope. Slide boxes are on the front table. Work in pairs. Draw your cells, label the phases, turn it in by end of period." Bella let out a soft, private breath of relief. Microscopes she could do. Microscopes did not have accents and did not offer hands. They worked. It went easily, which surprised them both. He was quick with the slides and patient with the focus, and she was neat with the labels and careful with the phases. He said prophase to her once, and she said anaphase back, and they smiled at the board where Banner had drawn them in chalk. "You went to school in England?" she asked, 5 minutes in when it was possible to talk without it being an event. "Yes." "Why forks?" It was the question he had prepared. He had, in fact, practiced 3 versions. He picked the truest. "I needed somewhere small." She looked up from the slide. "Okay," she said after a moment, not pressing, and he understood then that she was a person who believed in answers you did not have to explain. He liked her the first inch for it. "Yours?" he asked. "My mom got remarried. He travels. I wanted her to be able to go with him." "That's generous." "It's not. She stopped. She considered. "I needed somewhere small, too." Harry laughed. It was a small laugh, 3 syllables of real surprise. She looked at him, startled, and then a quick smile tugged at her mouth and went away again like a fish refusing the hook. They did not talk for the rest of the class. They did not need to. Lunch was a folding chair in a cafeteria lined with posters for a winter formal nobody really cared about. Mike had claimed him. Jessica had claimed Mike. Angela and Ben Chaney had an orbit he was drifting into through Eric Yorkie. Tyler Crowley, A tall kid with a wide smile and rough hands sat down across from him and immediately tried to teach him the correct way to eat a tater tot. With ranch. Tyler said, "You English people drown everything in gravy. Ranch. Ranch is sacred." "I'll accept it on loan," Harry said. Across the cafeteria, Bella sat at a table with Angela and Jessica, a hot lunch tray she had barely touched, a book tented under her palm. Her eyes crossed the room once and met his. She looked away before he could decide what to do with it. "New girl," said Tyler, seeing the direction of Harry's eyes. "Chief Swans, don't go there, man, don't go there. She's quiet. So am I. She's private. So am I." Mike laughed. "He's got you." Tyler grinned. "I just mean you're the new kid, she's the new kid, there's a lot of eyes, don't make it a whole thing." "I wasn't going to make it a whole thing," Harry said. He thought about how true that was. He had not come here for a girl. He had not come here for a boy. He had come here in the actual fact of his heart, to be alone with Rain for a year, and to see if a year of Rain would wash out of him anything he had been carrying. He had expected lab partners. He had not expected this. The quiet, straight-spined girl across the cafeteria who had shaken his hand and not looked at him after and was, at this moment, holding her book in a way that meant she had read the same line 3 times. He was not going to make it a whole thing. He was, however, going to walk her to her next class. The parking lot after lunch was what it always was. Black pavement, 100 cars, a low fog that wasn't going to burn off. Students poured out of the cafeteria in small, noisy groups. Harry came down the steps with Mike on his left and Angela on his right, and then, by a small adjustment of pace that he hadn't entirely planned, he was a half step behind Bella, who was walking to her truck to drop her book bag before 5th period. He saw the van before he heard it. Tyler Crowley had not chained up. The snow had melted the day before and refrozen in the morning shade, and the lot was black ice in patches where the sun hadn't touched. Tyler's old blue van, coming in too fast off the drive and tapping the brakes, had begun to slide the instant the rear tires hit the slick. The van was not swerving. The van was pivoting slowly, inevitably, broadside toward the row of parked cars at the edge of the lot, toward Bella's truck. Bella standing by Bella's truck, Harry's mind went through 3 possibilities in the space of 1 heartbeat. The first possibility was the simplest. He could pull her. He was close enough. He could close the distance, grab her, and yank her clear. That would work. It would also leave the van to pulverize her truck, possibly knocking into a cluster of other students beyond. That was not enough. The second possibility was to shield. Throw a shield charm, there were a dozen nearby witnesses. A shield, if visible at all, would be a momentary shimmer in the air, plausible deniability gone but not burned. That would work too. It would stop the van clean. It would also announce Wizard, loud as a gong to anyone with the ears to hear. The third possibility was a stop. Time did not stop for him. Nobody's time stopped. But there were old techniques, a blend of spatial and temporal lattice magic, that allowed a wizard to briefly, with tremendous cost, clamp the momentum of a specific moving object. The cost had always been borne well by Harry Potter, for reasons nobody at the Ministry had entirely figured out, and by which Harry had stopped being surprised when he was 18. He picked the third. He was moving before he had finished deciding. 2 strides, 3. He was between Bella and the van, hip to hip with her truck, his shoulder planted against the front quarter panel of the van as it came, his hand open, flat, pressed against the metal. The wand did not leave his sleeve. He did not need it. He needed a decision. Stop. The van stopped. It didn't skid to a stop, which was what everyone in the parking lot later agreed had happened. It arrested instantly with a weird soft thunk like a dropped book in a radius of impossible silence around Harry's hand. Tires that had been slipping simply didn't. The back of the van lifted 4 inches off the pavement, dropped back down and settled. For one long blink, Harry was aware of Tyler Crowley's white face through the windshield, his mouth open in the shape of a word that hadn't come yet. He was aware of Bella behind him, not shrieking, not frozen, bracing, one gloved hand flat against her truck and the other up to cover her face. He was aware of Mike shouting "holy shit" from somewhere behind him. He was aware of a warm, clean pain flaring up through his right forearm where he had met the van with his hand. Then he let the decision go. The van rolled slowly, sensibly, the final 18 inches to rest gently against the side of Bella's truck. Metal kissed metal. A side mirror cracked. Harry turned. Bella had lowered her hand. She was looking at him. She was not looking at the van. "You," she said, "are you all right? Are you?" "I'm fine." "Your arm." Harry looked down. His coat sleeve was torn where the van's edge had caught him. There was a line of red along the forearm, already drying, not deep. By any reasonable reckoning, he should have been flattened. "Just a scrape," he said, "a scrape. I slid with it." "You did not slide with it." Bella said, very quiet, the first words she had spoken, that took off her jacket and showed him the shape of her. "You stopped it. Bella, you stopped it." He held her eyes. It was one of the hardest things he had done in a month of hard things. "Not here," he said. She went still. Her mouth worked once, soundless, and then closed. The parking lot caught up to them. Tyler fell out of the driver's door and onto his knees and put both his hands flat on the pavement and did not get up. Mike arrived in a skid and shouted something at the sky. Mr. Banner, on lunch duty across the lot, was running and yelling into a radio. Students poured from the cafeteria. Somebody was crying because it was the sort of thing you cried at even if you didn't know the people. A teacher's aide had already produced a first aid kit and was descending on Bella with purpose. Harry looked at Bella a half-second longer. "Dinner," he said, very soft, because she had asked him a question and he owed her an answer and he was not going to give her the answer in front of 300 teenagers. "What? Come to dinner," Harry said. "At your house, with your dad. I'll tell him I'm new in town. I'll tell him I want to thank him for being so helpful yesterday. I'll ask if I can come over and you will say yes, and after dinner, you and I will talk." Her eyes, which had been wide and gray and full, steadied. "Tonight? Tonight." Charlie Swan arrived 2 minutes later in the cruiser, red and blue under the fog, a look on his face that was half "thank God you're okay" and half "which one of you is dying." Harry, by the time Charlie got to them, had his torn sleeve pulled down and a careful, boyish expression on his face. "Mr. Swan, Charlie got him it, I told you, Charlie. It was Tyler's van, he slid. Bella's fine, I was lucky." "Your daughter is fine, sir," Mrs. Cope said, who had also materialized. Charlie looked at Bella. His eyes did the thing Charlie's eyes did, the quiet check of a father's heart against the fact of a daughter's breath. She nodded at him. She was fine. He looked at Harry. I was closer than anybody," Harry said. "I braced her, that's all." Charlie's eyes were, for a long half-second, the exact eyes of the deputy who had been looking at a new face in a hardware store and had seen glasses and rain in the hair. They were not those eyes now. They were policemen's eyes, the ones that had not asked a question but already had an answer in a drawer somewhere. "We'll talk about this," Charlie said. "Yes, sir, Charlie?" "Yes, Charlie," Bella said without quite meaning for it to come out of her mouth at that particular moment. "Dad, Harry was going to come to dinner tonight." Charlie looked at her, then at Harry, then at the van 2 feet from Bella's truck, then at the sky. "Of course he was," Charlie said with a flatness that was less suspicion than "I do not have the bandwidth to be surprised by anything else today." "Fine, 7, you like fish." "I love fish." "Good, I have fish." Charlie turned away to deal with Tyler, who was still on his knees on the pavement and was being helped up by 2 paramedics. Bella looked at Harry. Harry looked at Bella. Neither of them said anything. They did not need to. Bella nodded once. Harry said softly for her ears only, 7. 7, she said. She turned and walked with Charlie toward the building, because that was what girls did after their fathers had arrived in squad cars, because 5th period was in 15 minutes. Because life, even after the impossible, insisted on going on. She did not look back. Harry watched her go. He became, slowly, aware that his arm was throbbing under the sleeve. He became, slowly, aware that 2 sophomores were staring at him as though he had grown a second head. He became, slowly, aware that somewhere 2 miles south-southwest of here, across the river, on the high porch of the empty Cullen house, a presence he had not felt last night was now standing very still and looking toward the school. He became, slowly, Aware that somebody small and dark-haired with the cold, bright trace he had failed to catalog the first time was watching him, he did not turn toward it. He did not look toward it at all. He simply, without letting his face move, let the inside listening reach back across the river and tap once the thing that was watching him. "I see you." The presence went still, considering. Then, very slightly amused. "I see you too," the presence said without saying it. Harry picked up his bag. "Fifth period, everybody," he said to nobody, to Tyler's van, to the sky. He tucked the ruined sleeve tighter around his wrist and walked with the polite, unworried stride of a boy who has just gotten lucky, back into Forks High. Chapter 2 and Chapter 3, Dinner at the Swans. Harry got home at 5 and treated the cut on his arm in the kitchen sink. It was a shallow scrape, longer than he'd first thought. He cleaned it with water hot enough to sting, dabbed it with Deepening from a small amber bottle kept in an old tobacco tin under the sink, and watched the skin reknit in a series of slow, clean pulls, as though a tailor were closing a seam by hand. He'd learned a long time ago not to flinch at the sight of Deepening working. Hermione had called it once the best magic Britain has ever exported, and he had agreed because it was true, because it had saved his life 3 times, and because saying it pleased her. He pulled his sleeve down over the new pink line and looked at himself in the bathroom mirror. "Try," he said to the mirror. "Try to be charming." The mirror, which was not that kind of mirror, offered no opinion. He picked the better of his 2 flannel shirts, pulled on clean boots, pocketed a small notebook in case Charlie wanted to see some kind of identification he had not yet produced, and, on his way out the door, remembered he ought to bring something to the house. He stopped at the bakery on the way. It was staffed by a woman with hands like flour and a husband who baked in the back, and a standing ad for pies above the till that Harry had privately decided might be the most authentic object he had encountered in America. He bought a blackberry pie in a disposable tin. The woman wrapped it in twine, told him to bake it at 350 for 10 minutes if he wanted the top brown again, and asked him who the lucky household was. "The Swans," he said. She beamed and added a second crumble pie at half price because, she said, Charlie deserved it, and Bella looked like she needed cheering up, and Harry should not tell them where they came from. He was a block from the Swan house when he realized he was nervous. He parked behind the cruiser. He sat a second. He breathed. Then he got out, pies balanced on one forearm, and knocked on a door whose paint was blistering at the bottom and whose porch boards were gray from rain. Charlie answered. He was in an old navy cardigan and a t-shirt with the Forks Police Department logo on it, and he had a dish towel over his shoulder. He stared at Harry a moment as though he had forgotten he had invited him. Then he saw the pies. "Oh, for crying out loud," Charlie said. "Too much? Is that Mrs. Linneman's? I didn't catch a name. Blackberry and crumble?" She said the crumble was on the house. "She'll have told the whole town by morning," Charlie said, stepping aside. "Come in." The Swan house was small and tidy in the way of a man who had lived alone for 15 years, and a daughter who had not yet started to fight him about curtains. There were photographs in the hall. Bella in a pumpkin patch, Bella in a yellow dress at what Harry took to be a school dance, Bella very small with her hair in 2 pigtails standing on a jetty holding a fish as big as her forearm. There was a fishing trophy on a bookshelf and a row of paperback thrillers, and an old radio with the dial tuned to an AM station playing a talk show at the barely audible murmur of a house that likes the sound of people without listening to them. The kitchen smelled of butter and fried cornmeal. Bella was at the stove, apron knotted at her waist, turning fish in a cast iron pan, hair up with a pencil through it. She looked up when Harry came in, and her eyes did a small, stupid thing at his shirt, which was a softer blue than the one he had worn to school, and then she caught herself doing it and went back to the fish. "Hi," she said. "Hi, you brought pies." Charlie said, and put the pies on the counter with the slightly offended air of a man who had planned the dinner to within an inch of its life. "We have pie. Mrs. Linneman's pie. Okay, great. Dessert we got. Bella, we got dessert. Don't let him in the kitchen too long or we'll have 12 courses." "I like fish," Harry said, because it had worked the first time. "I heard." They ate. Charlie had made fish and chips and they were very good. Bella had made a salad of butter lettuce and a vinaigrette out of lemon juice and honey that was better than the fish. Harry, who had grown up eating chips, eating fish, and eating salads made at the suggestion of concerned women, was astonished to find himself genuinely hungry. He ate 2 helpings. He complimented Bella's vinaigrette with specificity because the specificity was true. Charlie started out watchful and ended up, by the 3rd beer, telling a story about a base tournament in 1998 that ended with a man falling off a dock into a lake and a border collie nobody knew refusing to let anybody help him out. Bella laughed. Not for the first time. Twice. Harry listened with his whole body, because he had learned to. He told one story of his own, about his uncle's garden in Surrey and the gnomes that had, one summer, gotten into the vegetables, and Charlie laughed at the absurd particulars of it, and Bella laughed at the word gnomes, and the whole thing was, for 45 real minutes. The precise kind of evening that Harry had assumed had died with his mother, before he had ever got old enough to know, it was a kind of evening that could happen to him. Charlie looked just once at Harry over the rim of his glass in the middle of a pause, and Harry understood that Charlie had not forgotten the van. Charlie was not going to forget the van. Charlie was simply willing to wait. After dinner, Bella said, "Dad, we'll clear up. You sit." Charlie, who had already made himself smaller on the couch, acknowledged this with a grunt and a gesture that might have been thanks and might have been permission. The football game, with the sound down, provided an alibi. Bella and Harry washed in silence. He rinsed. She dried. They did not look at each other until the last plate was in the rack and the sink was draining, and then she took off the apron and hung it on the hook and said, without looking at him, "Can we go outside?" "Yes. Dad, we're going to get some air. Don't go far." Charlie said, not taking his eyes off the television, which was showing at a silent trot a running back who had either scored a touchdown or twisted an ankle. The camera had not decided. "Porch, driveway, maybe the corner. You carry your phone?" "I have it." "You have the spray?" "I have the spray." Good. They went. The porch was dark. A bare bulb on the corner kept the steps lit. The street beyond was lamped and wet and moving slightly in the wind. The cedars up and down the Swans block were dark bulks. Harry stepped down to the driveway with Bella behind him, and they stood, for a heartbeat, looking at the truck he had parked behind her father's cruiser. "Talk," Bella said. "Not a demand, not a plea, a simple instrument with a sharp edge. I'd rather walk." "The corner." "The corner." They walked the length of the driveway and started up the block. Porch lights glowed behind them. The wet air was kind. She kept her arms folded. Her hair was the same dark as the cedars above. She was trembling very slightly, not with fear. "You stopped a van with your hand." "I did." "How?" "That's the question I've been trying to decide whether to answer." "Answer?" "I am." He chose the words the way he chose his steps on wet stone. "I am something that exists quietly in your world. There are a handful of us. We are not aliens. We are not vampires. We are not werewolves. We are people who can do things, a very old people, a hidden people, magic." He stopped. He looked at her. He had expected argument. "Yes," he said, "magic." She did not laugh. She did not say prove it. She did not say okay. She walked 4 more steps in silence and then stopped and looked at the sky, which had a small hard moon in it through the cloud, and she said, quiet, almost to herself, "I knew it wasn't physics. You knew. The van was doing 40 when you got to it. You didn't catch it. It stopped." "Yes." "Okay, another 4 steps. Are you alone?" "I have friends at home." "No, I mean here, now, are other people are other." She searched for the word, magic people in this town. "Not yet," he said, and then, honestly, because she had not earned a lie, not exactly. "There are other kinds of hidden people near here. We'll get to them. Vampires." He did not react. "I read," Bella said. Her voice was too quiet for the width of the street. "I read a lot. I notice things. My dad drives the whole county. He comes home and he says things at the table that he doesn't know he's saying, and if you put them together, animals emptied of blood, hikers found too neat. The old Cullen kids, my dad used to talk about them like they were nice kids, but they were all adopted and all the same age, and none of them ever got older between my visits, and they all went to Alaska when I turned 16. I asked around. I read, I'm not an idiot." "You are not," Harry agreed. "There are vampires." There are, here, near, and you and me. They walked another half block. The wind came up a little. A cat ran across the road ahead of them. Somewhere, a neighbor was doing dishes. Why did you come to Forks? Bella said. Because I needed somewhere small. Why did you come to here? I did not know about them. I found out when I got here. Would you have come if you had known? I don't know. Would you stay? Yes, she laughed. It was a short, surprised laugh, a girl who had not meant to laugh, even now, especially now. They stopped at the corner. He turned to her. She turned to him. The streetlight was doing interesting things to the side of her face. He put his hand out, palm up, between them in the space that a handshake had taken that morning and, because he had promised her he would talk and talk was cheaper than doing, he shifted his weight. A pinpoint of candlelight woke in his palm. It was no bigger than a pea. It was not hot. It lit her face very faintly from below, the way a birthday candle might, and it danced in his skin as though a draft were moving around it, not air, because there was no air. It was the little light he had made for children at an orphanage 2 Christmases ago, a charm so small and useless and delicate that it had become, in the 3 years since, his favorite proof that magic was not only for wars. Bella did not cry. She did not gasp. She bent her head very slightly to see it better. Is it real? Yes. Is it hot? No, put your finger in it. She put her finger in it. Her finger went through the flame the way a hand goes through the light of a lamp. Her face went, fraction by fraction, into something like the face he remembered from a photograph in Charlie's hallway, a girl at 5 with a fish, a girl whose ordinary day had produced an extraordinary outcome and who had not yet decided what to do with it. Okay, Bella said. Okay, teach me. He laughed. He had not meant to. It came out relieved. One thing at a time, he said. One thing at a time. Don't lie to me, Bella said suddenly, the quick cord of steel he was going to find again and again in her. Don't lie to me, Harry Potter. If you're going to be in my life, if you're going to sit across from my father and eat my fish and tell my father stories, don't lie to me. I won't. Swear? On what? On whatever you swear on. He closed his hand around the candlelight and the candlelight went out. He put his hand, without asking, on her cheek, very briefly, very lightly, the way a brother puts a hand on a younger sister's cheek before he sends her upstairs, and he said with a formality that surprised her and him both, "On my mother." She nodded. She did not pull away. The porch light came on down the street. Charlie, backlit, stepped out and looked at them. Belle's coming, Dad. They turned and walked back. Harry's hand had come off her cheek. He had his hands in his pockets. She had her arms folded. They were, to an observer on a porch 100 yards off, 2 kids on the corner in a drizzle. Charlie, watching, decided something and was not yet ready to tell either of them what he had decided. Hey, he said when they were back in the driveway, we got company. Harry turned. A red truck with a lift kit had pulled up at the curb, its driver. A large man with long black hair and a face cut hard and patient and kind, was climbing down from it with the gracelessness of a man who had spent the day in a cut-rate mechanic's garage. Coming around the truck, a skinny teenager in a jacket too thin for the weather, with hair tied back in a low tail and the quick brown eyes of a boy who had been taught to see more than he said, was opening the passenger door. Harry recognized both of them without having met them before. Not because he had heard their names, because the inside listening, which had been quiet at dinner, had opened with a hum the instant the truck rolled up. The wildness at the tree line Harry had felt his first night on the porch, the warm one, old blood, old magic, old earth, was wearing shoes tonight and had driven into town. Billy Black, Charlie said happily. Got your timing right. Bella, you remember Billy, this is Jacob. Billy, this is Harry Potter, he's the new boy. Billy Black said, in a voice that was quiet and slow and did not exactly agree to anything. I'm going to need to have a word with Charlie, if you don't mind. Sure, Harry said. Billy, in his wheelchair, rolled up the driveway with Charlie behind him pushing when the gravel got thick, and the 2 older men went into the house together. Harry had time to notice how Charlie had not hesitated at "I'm going to need to have a word with Charlie." How Charlie had known from Billy's tone that this was not about fishing, and then the door was closed. Jacob Black, 16-ish, lean and strong, looked at Harry, then at Bella. Then at Harry again. Hi, Jacob said with a wide, careful grin. Hi, Harry said. You're the English kid? I am. Bells says you stopped a van with your hand. Bella, to her credit, did not quite sink into the porch. I did not say it exactly like that, Jacob Black. She said it close enough. Who are you? Harry asked, because it was the question, and because the part of him that had been an orer did not like how quickly the inside listening had sprung alive. Jacob took a breath. My family, he said carefully, has been telling stories about people like you for a very long time. People like me? People who move things without touching? Ah, also people who don't move things, other things, vampires. Jacob's mouth tightened. We don't say that name. All right. You can say it. I can't, not out loud, not on Quileute land. Makes my dad's, your dad's what? Harry said. Jacob did not answer. Your dad is a spiritual leader of the Quileute, Harry said, putting pieces together with the speed of a man who had been trained to put pieces together. The treaty holds between a certain family of the Cold Ones and your tribe. I understand. I won't say it. Good. The stories, Bella said. Jacob, what do they say about him? They don't say nothing about a specific him. They say sometimes white people come through who aren't white the way other white people are white. We used to call them ritual men, storm callers, stone steppers. We don't say that anymore because it sounded bad when the missionaries started writing it down. But, he looked at Harry. The old men tell stories. You're one of the story men. I'm one of the story men. Yeah, all right. So what are you doing here? I came to be quiet. That's what you're doing. Jacob gestured in the direction of the school of the van of the general day. I am not doing very well at it. Jacob made a noise that was almost a laugh. My dad, he said, is going to want to know you're not here to cause trouble. My dad is going to want to know what your intentions are toward the Cold Ones. My dad is going to want to know a lot of things. He's going to be polite about it. He's a polite man, but he's going to want to know. That's fine, Harry said. Tell him I will meet him on his land at whatever time of whatever day he chooses. Tell him I am not here to cause trouble. Tell him the Cold Ones who lived across the river are not here at the moment but are coming back. I have not chosen a side. I expect to choose the side of people. Jacob looked at him a long moment. My dad is going to like you, he said, which was not what Harry had expected. My dad is going to like you, and he is going to be very mad about liking you. All right. Bells. He dropped out of the conversation with Harry as neatly as he had entered it. Can I come by this weekend? I fixed the carb on the Chevy. I want to drive it. Yes, Bella said. Cool, cool. Billy and Charlie came back out of the house. Billy did not look at Harry again. Charlie wore the faint, furrowed look of a man who had not been told what he had expected to be told and was waiting to see what was coming. Billy said a courteous goodbye to Bella and said nothing to Harry and rolled down the drive with Jacob following. The red truck pulled away into the night. Charlie stood on the porch and watched them go. Then he said without looking at Harry, Son, sir, Charlie, you seem like a polite kid. I try. I'm a polite man. You are. I'm also a cop. Yes. Charlie scratched the back of his neck. I don't know what today was. He said slowly, I know what the van did because I saw the road and I saw the tires and I saw the distance. I know what you did because I talked to Tyler Crowley, and Tyler doesn't lie because Tyler can't lie. I also know my daughter is fine, and that in my old fool's estimation that is mostly because a new kid from England put himself between her and the van for reasons nobody including him is going to explain to me tonight. Charlie, I'm not done. Sorry. I like you, that's the problem. I like you and I'm a cop and the two don't agree tonight. So I am going to tell you this and you are going to hear it. Whatever you are, and I don't mean that. I don't know what I mean, I'm tired. Whatever you're into, whatever you're bringing, whoever you know, if it touches my daughter in a bad way, you are going to find out why people in this county don't take kindly to their sheriff being crossed. Do you understand me? Yes, sir, Charlie. Yes, Charlie, good. Charlie looked at him, then at Bella, then away. Bells, come on inside, it's cold. Coming, Harry did not push, he did not prolong. He said, Thank you for dinner, Charlie. I'll drop the pie tin when it's clean. And he got into the truck. Bella stood on the porch as the engine turned over. Her arms were folded. Her face in the porch light was a face that had been through a lot today and was not through yet. She raised a hand. Harry raised one back. He drove away. He did not go home, not right away. He drove up past his own drive and out the 101 and took the old logging road around the back of the ridge. He parked at the pull-off he had marked on his first walk and went on foot. The cloak was in his coat. He did not wear it. He had the wand out. The Cullen house was dark. The inside listening opened, carefully, in a circle around him and widened until it touched the house, and then kept going until it touched the river, and then kept going until it touched the trees on the far side of the river. Something had been in the house again. Not the patient Trace from the first night. A different Trace, colder, hungrier, not the same as the watching thing that had stood on the porch that afternoon during the van. 3 different presences had been in or around that house in 2 days. Harry did not like odds that increased. He crouched at the edge of the ivy at the drive and stayed still for 10 minutes. The house did not speak to him. The trees above the drive, which he had warded the day before, spoke to him once. All quiet, a stillness, and now, a movement. A branch moved, not with the wind. Harry did not breathe. There was a shape on the top step of the Cullen house. It had not been there 10 seconds ago. Small, girl-shaped, dark hair, short and spiky. She was not looking at him. She was looking at the sky. She was, of all the impossible things she could be doing, smiling, a small, private smile, the kind you smile when something you have been waiting for has, finally, come around the last corner of the staircase. Harry sank quietly an inch deeper into the ivy. The girl on the porch spoke without raising her voice. "You can come out, you know," she said. "I've been trying to see you for an hour and all I get is ivy. You warded the property. That was rude. Nice, but rude." Harry did not come out. He said softly into the wet, so softly that a human being would not have heard it across the river, "What's your name?" The girl on the porch cocked her head, charming as a robin. "Alice," she said. "Alice Cullen. I came ahead because my brother ruins everything and I wanted to see you first." "Hi, Harry Potter. It's nice to finally meet you. Can we maybe not tell Edward yet?" Harry, quietly, against every training he had ever been given, laughed. He stayed in the ivy another minute to prove he could, and then he stood up. Chapter 3 and Chapter 4. The coven Alice Cullen waited at the top of the steps as though she had been waiting all her life. She had a small fur collar on her jacket and her hands in her pockets and her head cocked at the exact coy angle of a girl who knows exactly what she is doing. Harry came up the drive and stopped at the bottom of the steps. "Shall I invite you in?" she asked. "It isn't your house," Harry said. Strictly speaking, it hasn't been anybody's in a year." She stepped aside. "Come on, tea is the correct British beverage, yes." "I don't have any tea, I'll make it in my head." Harry climbed the steps. He kept the wand loose in his hand. He let the inside listening keep its watchful circle open. A vampire who intended harm could travel the distance between them in half of one of his heartbeats, and Alice Cullen was, whatever else she was, a vampire. He did not stand down. "I would be lying," Alice said, "if I said you could put the stick away. I would like you to know that if you have to use it on me, I will try very hard to deserve it." "That is the worst sentence anyone has ever said to me." "I know," she grinned. "I practiced." She stepped into the house. He followed at a distance that was not rude and not friendly. The lights had been off a minute before. Now a lamp was on in the living room, and the fire in the stone hearth, which had been cold since the Cullens left, was lit and burning low with yellow birch. "How? I knew you'd come." "How?" "Because I have been seeing you since July." Since a morning in July, to be precise, in Denali. When I dropped a glass into the sink, and instead of the sink, I saw a kitchen I didn't recognize with a tall, dark-haired boy making coffee and a pair of cedars in the window, and a scar on his forehead that I thought might be a shadow until I looked again and saw it was a shape. A lightning shape. Her smile tightened. I looked up the shape. "It took me 3 days. The library at Tanya's house has a lot of books, but not many of yours. I wrote a letter to a woman in Liverpool. She wrote back, 'I know more about you than is fair, Harry Potter, and I apologize.' She wrote back. She runs a tea room. She also happens to be a squib in your parlance. She knew the name." Harry stood a moment with that. "All right," he said. "I accept you have done your homework." "I had to." She sat on the arm of a low couch. She did not, he noticed, sit on the couch proper. Vampires would sit if asked. They did not sit for themselves. "I had to because Edward is going to come home in January, and Edward is Edward is going to meet the chief's daughter, and Edward is going to lose his mind over her, and Edward is going to— You've seen that too. I've seen 12 of that, 12 different January 1sts, and they all go wrong. 9 of them go terribly. 2 of them end in a standoff with a man named James who is currently a 3-day drive northeast of here. 1 of them ends in a fire. 1 of them, she did not smile, ends in my brother dying. Dying is a verb we are allowed. I see. And now in August I start seeing you, and suddenly the Januaries all change. Suddenly the girl isn't alone. Suddenly the Januaries don't end in fires. Suddenly my brother is okay. He is not happy, but okay. A not happy Edward is a thing we all know how to live with. Alice Cullen stood up. She was small and bright and thoroughly not human, and when she came close to him she did it slowly so that he could watch her do it. Harry, she said carefully, I am here to ask you for a truce. I am here to tell you I will not harm Bella Swan. I am here to tell you I would like very much not to have to fight you, for reasons I have known since July and not the ones that are obvious. I would like, if you will allow it, to be your friend. Harry watched her eyes. They were yellow with a high gloss and they did not move. Why not the obvious reasons? Because I like you. I have liked you since the second vision in July. The visions are full and long. I have seen you stand in your kitchen and laugh at something you read. I have seen you cut a lemon with a wand. I have seen you lift a cat off a shelf. I have seen the shape of a good person, and I would like very much to be near it for a while, he said slowly, because it mattered. I will be honest with you, please. I am not here to hurt your family. I am not a vampire hunter. I am not a partisan. I came to Forks to be alone, and I have found I am not. I have a scrap of responsibility for the shape of this town while I am in it, because I have been trained for that, and because I cannot help it. If your family lives in peace, I will not interrupt you. If your family eats in the town, I will interrupt you. The moment you harm the chief or his daughter or their neighbors, I will not be a truce, I will be a problem. Is this? It is exactly what I expected. Good. My family doesn't eat in the town. I know. You knew before you came here. I suspected before I came here. I knew before I came tonight. You're a good intelligence officer for a 17-year-old. I am 21, Harry said. Oh, she tilted her head. That explains the— She made a small gesture at the shoulders, the jaw, the small, inherent carriage of the man he had become while not looking. That. Yes, all right. 21 glamored down, pretending to be 17 in a high school in the rain. Yes, because you love chaos. Because I love being anonymous. Harry, I know, she laughed. She had a laugh like wind chimes, and he was a man determined not to be charmed by it, and he was slightly charmed anyway. All right, Alice said. I will tell Carlisle, nobody else. When the family comes down, I will tell them together in the living room, one at a time by face. You will do the same with me. Any other magical persons you expect to bring through, please, for my peace of mind, tell me when they come. Fair, fair. Edward will come back when he comes back. He is. She bit her lower lip. He is not ready for you. I will not be able to warn him because he reads my mind. I will try to muffle the news with a wave of other things. He will be surprised. He will be. Let him be surprised. He will feel. Let him feel. He will not believe it at first. He will eventually. He will be ashamed later of how he believed it. He will have to live with that. It is his job to live with what he does. Alice looked at Harry a long moment. You have sisters, she said. I have one friend who is better than any sister I could have wanted. She is lucky. She is the lucky one. You are the lucky one, but she is lucky too. She would agree with that order. She laughed again. The fire in the hearth, which, on reflection, could not possibly have lit itself in the 10 seconds between Harry climbing the drive and Alice opening the door, threw a small flare into the grate and dimmed to embers. Go home, Alice said. Sleep. I'll be here all week. Tell Bella I said hello. Tell Bella I am looking forward to pretending I have just met her at school. She will know. Let her know I like girls who know. He drove home slowly. The rain had stopped at last, and the roads were only wet, not running. The cedars breathed. Somewhere a coyote yipped. He did not turn the radio on. He let his mind settle, point by point, along the evening, and he felt, by the time he pulled into his drive, as close to steady as he had felt in a year. He did not sleep particularly well, but he did not mind. He dreamed of nothing in particular, which was its own kind of blessing. School, for 3 days, was school, Bella avoided him in the halls with the dignity of a girl who did not want to be seen staring at him. In biology, she sat beside him with unusual composure and asked him, in a low voice with her head bent over the slides, 17 small questions about magic over 2 periods. Is it hereditary? Can it be taught? How many of you are there? Do you have a government? Is there a school? Do people ever accidentally do it? What happens then? What does it feel like? What does it feel like to have it and not use it? She wrote notes in the margin of her lab book in a handwriting that looked like a scribe's. He answered. He did not answer everything. He answered honestly. She kept her face down. 3 times she looked up. Twice she looked at him. Once she looked past him, out the classroom window, at the low gray sky and the trees. After the last of the 3 days, on a Thursday morning, she slipped him a single note in folded paper, tucked under her palm on the lab table. Come by the diner after school. I work 3 to 7. I have questions that are not about magic. He came. The diner was on Main, 2 blocks from the school, across from the bakery. It was called the Lodge. The waitresses wore brown aprons and the coffee was surprisingly good. Bella was not a waitress. She had a seasonal job bussing tables and rolling silverware in the back booth after the lunch rush. She had the uniform on and her hair up. She was, he could see from the door, deliberately not looking at him. He took a booth by the window and ordered the pie of the day, which was apple. She came over when the shift supervisor went to smoke. I don't have a lot of time. All right. Jacob called. Billy wants to meet you Saturday. Good. Where? First Beach. Good. Charlie knows. Ah, Charlie knows that Billy thinks you're complicated. Charlie doesn't know what Billy thinks you're complicated about. Charlie was thoughtful all day yesterday. He didn't want me to go to school this morning. I had to. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. That's not why I'm not here to pile on. I'm here because... She turned her head to make sure the supervisor wasn't coming back, and then she turned her eyes, direct and gray and stubborn, on Harry's face. I'm here because my dad is a good cop and my dad has instincts and my dad is already half on to you and I don't want you to be stupid about him. I don't want you to pretend with him. I haven't been pretending with him. I know, that's my point. Don't start. Don't develop a smooth, charming act. He'll see it. If he sees it, it'll be worse than whatever the truth is. Noted. And she took a breath. And I'd like you to come over on Saturday night, after you meet Billy. I want Charlie to see you coming home to dinner 2 days in a row. I want Charlie to see you coming by without a reason. I want it to be normal. If it's normal enough, he'll let other things be for a while. All right. Don't bring pies. All right. Bring something else. All right. And she held his eyes a moment longer than he had expected. Her cheeks went very slightly pink. And I'd like to know how to do what you did with the candle, the small thing. I don't need a big thing. I need a small thing. Bella, I am not asking you to teach me to be she hunted for the word he had given her on the corner, a witch. I know it doesn't work that way. I know people are born to it. I want to try, okay? I want to try. Indulge me. He looked at her. It was not a difficult look. Meet me Saturday night early, he said. Before dinner, come to my house. I'll try one thing, you'll try to repeat it. You won't do it and we'll laugh and I'll make you tea, and you'll know what it feels like to not be able to do the thing, and that will take the edge off. Maybe. Maybe not. Maybe not. Fine. Fine. She tapped the table twice. She turned and left. At the counter, the pie came with a scoop of vanilla. Harry ate it very slowly. The next afternoon, a Friday, in the parking lot of the Newton family's sporting goods store, Harry felt Laurent before he saw him. He had come in for a new camp stove. He had also come in because Mike Newton had told him 3 days running that his family's store was the best sporting goods store in the county, and Harry had decided to be neighborly. He was in an aisle of aluminum mess kits when the inside listening tapped him on the shoulder, hard like Hermione used to in a library, a cold, patient, unhurried, not malicious. He straightened up from the shelf, the mess kit in his hand, and turned. He walked through the store like a young man who had forgotten something and was going out to the truck to get it. The bell on the door jingled. The parking lot beyond the store was gray. A dark car sat at the far end under a row of alders, nosed in, door open. A man in a long black coat was leaning against the car, looking at Harry. His eyes were red. His face was handsome in a way that had nothing to do with youth. He looked, Harry thought, like a statue that had woken up. He had dreadlocks past his shoulders and very white teeth. He did not move when Harry came down the ramp. Harry did not slow. "You must be the wizard," the man said, "and you must be a friend of Alice Cullens. Acquaintance, I am Laurent. I have come to do you a small, ill-paid favor for which I hope you will remember me kindly." Harry stopped at a conversational distance. The wand was in his hand inside his coat. The stone was warm on his finger, which was what the stone did when a dead thing was near. He did not blame the stone. It was doing its job. "I am listening." "James and Victoria, you do not know them, are two hunters of my acquaintance who have, for the last 6 weeks, been moving through Washington for sport. I have asked them to pass. They have not agreed exactly. James has scented a trail near the Forks River that has interested him very much." "What trail?" "The chief's daughter." Harry did not react. He had practiced. "Thank you for the warning," he said. "They will come. James is a tracker. He is very, very good. When he fixes on something, it is already his. Whatever you are doing to defend this town, defend the girl first. Do not build a wall around your kitchen. Build a wall around her bedroom." "Noted. And, Harry Potter, if I may, Laurent, stay out of Denali." "I have no plans for Denali. Then we will both be happier." He got into his car. The door, when it closed, closed with the soft, weighty click of a well-engineered thing. The window came down. "Alice sends her love. Tell her I said you first." Laurent smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. It was not a cruel one either. It was the smile of a man who had stopped being human long enough ago to have acquired the smiles of other things. "She will laugh." The car pulled out. Harry stood in the parking lot a minute, letting the inside listening watch it go out of the county. When it was well gone, he turned and walked back into the Newton family's sporting goods store and bought the camp stove he had come for. He also bought a fishing vest for Charlie, because Charlie liked fishing vests, and 2 candles, because he was going to teach a girl to make light on Saturday, and it was better to have real candles in the room for when the magic did not quite light. Saturday came. She came up the drive in her truck at 4, with the sky still in full gray, the rain only a suggestion. She had changed out of her school clothes and was in a sweater that was too big for her and jeans that were too long, and her hair was down for once, heavy and dark past her shoulders. She came up the steps and put her hand on the door frame and looked at him before she crossed the threshold. "Is it?" she asked. "Yes, come in. The house likes you." "The house likes me. The wards like me." "Yes, okay." She came in. She looked around openly, with the kind of curiosity he liked better than he would have liked a compliment. The front room had books on a shelf and a bad watercolor on one wall, and a little black and white photograph of a woman with dark red hair over the mantelpiece. She paused in front of the photograph, too polite to ask, "My mother?" "Oh, it's all right." She died when I was a baby." "I'm sorry." "Thank you. Your dad?" "Him too?" "Harry, it was a long time ago, Bella. Come on, I want you to try something." He led her to the small back room he had set aside. It had 2 chairs, a low round table, a single candle in a dish on the table, and a fire, not because they needed a fire, but because firelight teaches the eye to forgive small failures. He sat her in one chair and took the other. He put the candle between them. "Reach out," he said. "With what?" "Your hand." She put her hand out, palm up, above the candle, as he had done on the corner. "Think of the candle lit." "It's not lit." "Think of it lit," she thought. She closed her eyes. Her brows did the small, stubborn thing they did in biology when she got a slide she couldn't focus. Nothing happened. "Open your eyes." "Nothing." "Open your eyes." She opened them. The candle was unlit. She made an annoyed noise in the back of her throat, the kind of annoyed noise a girl makes when she is disappointed in herself and does not want to show it. "Bella, I know, you said I wouldn't." "I said you probably wouldn't. Close your eyes again." "Why?" "Because the shield you are going to try next is a word. Words help some people." "I don't know the word." "Repeat after me. Pratigo. Pratigo." "Now I am going to throw a pebble at your forehead. You're going to what?" "I will throw it slowly. I will not hurt you. Pratigo. Pratigo." He took a pebble from his pocket. It was a smooth river stone the size of a thumbnail. He tossed it at her forehead gently at walking speed. It bounced off a handbreadth in front of her skin. It did not fall to the table. It did not change direction. It simply stopped for an eye blink and then dropped straight down onto the wooden tabletop with a small, clean tap. Bella went white, Harry went still. "Do it again," she said, not breathing. He did it again. Tap a third time, tap. "Harry, I know, Harry, I know." Was that you?" "No, was that me? You had a shield in front of your face for 1/5 of a second, approximately, 3 times running. Oh my God, I know, Harry, I know." She stared at the pebble on the table, then at him, then at the pebble. "I'm not. I know what you are not. I also know what Alice said when I asked her about you on Tuesday. I also know that Quileute stories talk about the daughters of a certain bloodline drifting through the county every 3rd generation who can light candles without matches and who never learn to." Alice Cullen, you asked? I forgot I was going to tell you about that. I'll tell you about Alice Cullen tonight over dinner at your house in code because your father will be there. "Bella, look at me." She looked at him. "You have a spark," he said very carefully. "That a lot of people in my world call a latent. Most latents never find out. A very small number do. You are finding out because I am teaching you. I am not going to teach you anything big. I am not going to let you blow up a kitchen. But I am going to teach you small things, Bella Swan, because I have decided in the last 4 days that whatever is coming for you in this town is going to have to come through a shield charm first. And a half shield from a girl who was told last week that magic was real is a better shield than no shield at all. Harry, I know, I'm scared, I know, I'm also," she stopped. "I'm also not. That's weird. That's not weird. That's what happens to people when a door you thought was painted on a wall turns out to open. The fear comes later. Sometimes." She looked at the pebble again. "Do it again." Once more. "Then we eat." He tossed the pebble. Tap. She laughed. It was the same laugh he'd surprised out of her in biology, the one that had fled like a fish. This time she did not flinch from it. This time it came. Chapter 4 and Chapter 5. What Bella chose Saturday morning, Harry drove down to First Beach early enough that the fog hadn't lifted. La Push was a strip of wind-bent pines and small wood houses and a gray beach full of driftwood the size of dead horses. The tide was out. Gulls argued in a tide pool. Harry pulled his truck into a gravel lay-by a sign that said "Welcome to the Quileute Nation." Read the rest of the sign twice, because reading signs in new countries was a habit he'd picked up during the war, and got out into the salt wind with both his hands visible. Billy Black was waiting for him halfway down the beach, in his wheelchair on the hard sand where the tide had packed it flat. Jacob stood behind him with his hands in his pockets. 2 other men were farther up the beach, pretending not to be watching them, one tall and serious with a broad shirt and the stillness of a man who had practiced stillness deliberately. One shorter, younger, with a bright face he was trying to keep closed. Harry walked out to meet them. He did not hurry, he did not slow, he got within speaking distance and stopped. "Mr. Black, Harry Potter." Billy's eyes were the eyes his son didn't have yet, deep, unsurprised, a little tired. "Thank you for coming, thank you for asking. My friends up the beach are Sam Uli and Seth Clearwater. Sam stands for the young men of the tribe in these matters. Seth," Billy's mouth twitched fond, "Seth is here because Seth doesn't like missing things. We will keep this brief. All right. You are what my grandfather would have called a medicine man. Close enough. You are here for reasons of your own. I do not need to know them. I came to be alone. That did not work." Billy smiled briefly, a smile like a crack in a stone. "You are aware," he said, "that the Cullens are returning." "I am." "You are aware of the nomads tracking through the county." "I am." "You are aware that my people have been bracing for something for months." "I can see it on your son." Jacob, behind Billy, bristled. Billy raised 2 fingers of his left hand, not looking at him, and Jacob settled. "Good," Billy said. "Then we can skip the beginning. Here is what I need from you, Mr. Potter. You will not harm my people. You will not harm the humans of Forks. If there comes a moment in this county when it is easier for you to do something large and frightening than something small and careful, you will do the small and careful thing unless someone's life is on the fulcrum. You will not interfere with our treaty with the Cullens. If another of your kind comes through," Billy paused, searching his memory for the word he had been given, "another wizard through this county, you will tell me. If the daughter of our chief constable is to be drawn into your world, you will ask her, you will not trick her. Understood. Do you agree? I do. Swear it. Harry held Billy's eyes a moment, then he put his right hand flat on his chest, thumb spread, fingers pressed firm, an old gesture older than any treaty. On my mother, he said. I swear. Billy looked at him a long time. Then he nodded once and held his own hand out. Harry took it. Billy's hand was warm and rough and strong the way a tree trunk was strong. He did not shake, he only held. Good, he said. You are welcome on La Push land by invitation of the eldest. You are not welcome without it. I will tell you when you are welcome. Thank you. Jacob will drive you back to your truck. My son wants to look at your truck and I want him to have an excuse to be young for 5 minutes. I will send him home when he is done. Jacob, who had been told this ahead of time, did not look particularly young. Sam and Seth up the beach, relaxed in a way Harry's inside listening read immediately. The tension that had been holding the beach at a half-crouch eased. Billy wheeled himself up the hardpack with the casual power of a man who had done it every day for 20 years. Jacob fell in beside Harry. You did that right, he said after a while. I was taught. By who? By a man named Kingsley, who was taught by his grandmother, who was the daughter of a chief in a village my country used to pretend was its own. Complicated? Yes. Where did you learn to say on my mother? From a friend. She's Muggle-born, her parents are not magical. She has said it to me as long as I've known her. I thought it was a personal oath. I found out 2 years later it's very old. Celtic, maybe older. Her mother's family is from Cork. I asked her once where she got it. She said her grandmother's. She said it's what you say when a lie would kill you. My dad liked that. I could tell. He likes you. He is mad about liking me. Yeah. Jacob grinned, and for one flash he was only 16. That's his favorite way to like anybody. At the Swans that evening, Harry did not bring pie. He brought a small blue pot of chamomile tea, Mrs. Linneman had sold him because it had been on the shelf too long, and she was glad to send it out the door. And a 6-pack of Charlie's preferred beer. And a jar of cherry preserves he had made himself in his kitchen that afternoon out of the preserves his house had had in the pantry when he moved in. Which the lady at the bakery had sworn were Bella's favorite when Harry had mentioned, in passing, that he liked cherry. Charlie, who had been watching for pies, was relieved. He asked Harry about the English League and how the soccer team he supported was doing. Harry, who did not support a soccer team, lied gracefully for 10 minutes. Bella, in the kitchen, laughed once quietly into the sink. After the dishes, Bella said we're going out, and Charlie, in the tone of a man who had decided something without anybody's help, said, back by 10. Potter, you drive slow? Yes, sir, Charlie. Yes, Charlie. Charlie watched them go. They drove through the damp dark, out past the 101 and the lay-by and up Harry's gravel drive to his house on the slope. The wards made the truck's engine sound smaller as they crossed the perimeter, a trick Harry had learned from a Romanian orer and which he had taught nobody, mostly because he liked the sound of it. Bella noticed. She didn't say anything. She noticed. Come out back, Harry said. The back of the little house was a long slope into the cedars. Harry had taken the rear yard apart in 4 nights of patient work. A small, clear circle of neatly turned earth, a ring of old stones, a single bent pine he had coaxed out of its winter dormancy with a charm he'd been playing with since he was 15. The garden inside the circle under the moon was not exactly a garden because nothing was in bloom. But there were late, stubborn things, a pair of snowdrops under the pine, a patch of witch hazel, a spray of cyclamen, and where he had put the little greenhouse dome made of old glass jars stacked and fused with a transfiguration charm, a knee-high wall of foxgloves in full purple bloom that had no business being in full purple bloom in September. Harry, Bella said and stopped. Close your eyes. Okay. He said a word. The cedars above the clearing lifted their canopy very slightly as though a hand were lifting a bedsheet, and the moonlight that had been held up in their branches poured down into the circle in a single slow wash. The stones took it up and gave it back, pale. The foxgloves threw small purple shadows. The snowdrops rang a sound nobody heard. Open your eyes. She opened them. She stood a long time and then she said very quiet, this is in every book I ever loved. I know, it's real. It is. Why haven't you? Because I am hiding. Why are you hiding? Because I am tired. She looked at him. Her face under the moon was very plain and very beautiful because moonlight has no interest in flattering anybody. Tell me what you're tired of. He thought about lying. He had gotten very good at lying politely. Come inside. He said instead, let me tell you properly. They went back in. He poured the chamomile into 2 mugs that didn't match. He set a plate of biscuits between them on the small table in the back room where they had tried the candle. The fire was low. The house was warm. There was a war, he began. He told her he did not romanticize. He did not use the names of the dead unless they belonged to the point. He told her about the orphaning and about the cupboard under the stairs and about the letter at 11 and the door that had opened. He told her about Ron and about Hermione. He told her about Dumbledore as an old man and then as a man at all. He told her about Sirius, and he told her about Remus and Tonks, and when he told her about Fred, he had to stop and put his hands in his lap a moment. He told her about Voldemort. He described him with the detached care of a man describing a flood. He told her about the Horcruxes by their purpose, not their inventory, a person who tore his soul into pieces to escape dying, a way of not dying that made the dying worse. He told her about the forest and he told her about the ring because she was looking at the ring on his hand and he had promised. It raises the dead, Bella said quietly. The ring? No, Harry said. It returns their shadows briefly under certain conditions. It is not kindness. It is not life, it is a glimpse. You've used it. Once. I was 18. I spoke to 4 people. I put it away. Do you wear it to remember? I wear it because it's mine. I wear it because it's no safer anywhere else. Harry, I won't use it again. You don't have to worry about that. I wasn't. He looked up. She wasn't. I was going to ask you, she said, if you are happy. He thought about that. He drank his tea. He set it down. I am today, he said, surprised to find it true. Okay. They sat in the quiet a while. Do you want to? She cleared her throat. Do you want to show me one more thing? What? Anything? The thing you like best. He thought about the light in the palm, which he had already done. He thought about flying, which was a thing he had not done in front of a person he wasn't paid to do it in front of in 3 years. He thought about the cloak, which was his mother's father's, and of which he was the 3rd Potter to be the owner and had been warned by his godfather's portrait, never to tell any lover of except as a final thing. Instead, he said, stand up. She stood. He stood opposite her. He picked up a fallen pine needle off the tabletop. One had blown in when he opened the back door and set it on his palm. Not everything magic is big, he said. Not everything is dramatic. Sometimes magic is simply, thing that should be one way is the other. Watch. He set the pine needle upright. It stood on his palm the way no pine needle stood on any palm that had ever been. It balanced. It did not fall. He rotated his hand slowly. The pine needle remained as though stapled. He turned his palm sideways. Still it did not fall. She watched it and laughed. She laughed the second honest laugh he had gotten from her in a week. That's the one you pick, she said. That's the one I pick. Out of everything? Out of everything. It's the one my godfather showed me when I was 15 and furious at him about something that didn't matter. I stayed furious for a minute and then I couldn't because I had never seen anybody hold a pine needle like that before. I lost that fight because I laughed. Harry, yes. Can I? Yes. She put her palm up to his. Their hands hovered, not quite touching. He tipped his palm delicately and the pine needle rolled across the small gap of air between them and stood up on her palm. She gasped. She held her hand still. She breathed through her teeth. The pine needle wobbled, steadied, wobbled. Don't try, I'm not. You're trying. I can't stop. Then try to breathe instead, she breathed. Slow, in, out. The pine needle steadied. For 5 long seconds, the pine needle stood on Bella Swan's palm in a quiet little room with the fire crackling. Then it fell. She let out a laugh as if she had been holding it in her fist. Harry. He looked up at her. She was close now, closer than they had been. The mug on the table had tipped at some point and a little chamomile was on the wood. Her hair had fallen forward. I want to kiss you, Bella said. Is that stupid? It isn't stupid, is it? It isn't stupid. Are you? I am. They kissed. It was not the swept-up kiss of a girl made of thunderstorms. It was quiet and neat and a little careful and a little too short, because the first kiss of 2 quiet people is always a little too short. And then, when it was over, she laughed again, not at him, at a piece of herself that she had not seen before. And she leaned her forehead against his and shut her eyes. Okay, she said. Okay, Harry, yes? That was fine. Yes, it was better than fine. Yes, I would like to do it again. Yes, they did it again. It was still quiet. It was neater the second time. When they stepped back, the fire had laid down flat in the grate, and outside the back window, the clearing, the moonlit, cleared circle, the one he had spent 4 nights making for nothing in particular, was patient and empty. The cedars held their canopy. The witch hazel in the garden gave off its small, faint yellow scent. Bella glanced at the window, stilled. Harry. He was already moving. There was a man in the clearing. He was tall. He was still. He was smiling in the small, private smile of a hunter who has at last found the end of a trail. He had straw-colored hair to his jaw, a brown leather jacket, bootlace at his wrist, and eyes the color of a red candle in a dark room. He was looking directly at the back window through the wards. Harry's wards were not showing him the house. They were holding the house indifferent in his eye. But he had walked up to them, had found, through whatever tracker's preternatural sense he owned, the approximate direction of the place that was being indifferently held, and he was standing at the edge of the circle with the attitude of a man who had intended to be welcome. James. Harry said quietly. That would be his name, Bella said. Stay here, Harry, stay. Harry, Bella Swan, if you go out that door in the next 3 minutes I will be very cross with you. Pratigo. Pratigo, she said automatically. Good, close the back door behind me, put the bar across it. If he breaks the wards, he won't, but if the house will begin to hum. If the house hums, you go up to the bedroom and into the wardrobe and pull the front of the wardrobe closed. Stay there, I will come for you. Harry, Bella, stay. He stepped out. The back porch was cold. The moon was high. The clearing was very still. James Witherdale, Harry knew the name without having been told. Laurent had not given him the surname, but there was something in a predator that labeled itself, did not step forward. He stood at the ring of stones and let himself be looked at. Well, James said pleasantly, you are smaller than I'd hoped. I am often told. You smell of, his head tipped, earth. You smell of old earth and something that is not flesh. You are not what Laurent said. Laurent didn't say anything. Laurent said you were a wizard. He underestimated you. He does that. He was always the weak member of the family. This is my family. He lifted a careful hand. A woman walked. Out of nowhere Harry had been watching from the eastern edge of the clearing, her hair a bonfire red, her eyes the same banked coal as his, her shoulders wire-tight. Victoria, she does not speak when I am speaking. And somewhere presently not here Laurent, whom we will be rejoining shortly, I thought I would come pay my respects. You are not paying respects. Oh, I am in your garden, young man. I am not in your house. I am standing on the edge of a ring of stones you laid in yesterday. He smiled, wider, with more teeth. I am a man of several manners, and not all of them go together. You have come for the chief's daughter. I have come for the scent of a human girl who smells like nothing else has smelled in my lifetime, and who is standing in your back room right now, and will, if you are a reasonable person, live a long, happy life entirely outside my jurisdiction if you simply allow me to explain for a moment. How much I would like to have her and how much I am willing to, on this one occasion, let that want go. That is a long sentence. I am showing off, I noticed. You will go. I beg your pardon, you will go. Confringo. James was a very, very good tracker. He had heard Harry's voice change register on the 7th syllable of you will go. He had moved before Harry's wand cleared the sleeve. He was in the air, halfway across the clearing, aimed straight at Harry's throat when the first spell caught him. Confringo does not kill a vampire because a vampire is not built to be killed by fire. But Confringo, thrown correctly, does turn a man briefly into a man with his left arm on fire. James hit the stone wall at the edge of Harry's porch and dropped. He came up with his teeth closed around nothing. His arm was burning from shoulder to wrist, and he was already hammering the fire down with his other hand and the long, hard presence of his own will. Vampires could do that, Harry remembered, just as a fire ward dropped around James and bound him a half-second incarcerous. He didn't bother naming, so the vampire had to tear through ropes of visible light as well as his own burning skin. 3 seconds bought, Victoria came for him. Victoria was faster than James. Victoria was the knife, he was the hammer. She was low and lateral and on Harry's right hand before Harry had put his wand back online. Harry dropped, rolled out of the path of her hand, came up with his shoulder against a porch post and his wand flat along his forearm. "Glacius," he said, "ice, not fire. A boot of ice around Victoria's ankle and calf and hip, not to hurt her, to anchor her." A 90-pound slab of coldness on an ankle that had been about to close the distance between her teeth and Harry's jugular. Victoria roared and broke the ice. But it took her a full second to break the ice, and in that second Harry had said quietly, "Protego horribilis." And the back of his house came up in a dome of faintly glowing silver light, and Victoria's second lunge, the one aimed at the back window, hit the dome and spread on it like rain on glass. James was up. His arm was charred and knitting. His face was an intelligent, interested fury, the face of a hunter who has noticed that his hunt has begun a minute earlier than expected. "This will be a better hunt than I thought," James said. "It will be no hunt at all," Harry said. He took a single step forward off the porch. The wand in his hand was lazy-looking. The air around him had gone quiet in the specific way it went quiet when something large inside him had woken up. The stone on his finger was warm. "I said go." He did not say reducto or avada or fiendfire. He said a word he did not, on the whole, like an old ministry word designed for one purpose. And the clearing filled with a long, shuddering push, a wall of invisible pressure moving out from Harry's body in a single widening ring. It did not look like anything. It did not sound like anything. It merely rearranged the air it passed through into a thing that no vampire could stand against for more than a moment. James skidded backward across the stones and out through the cedars. Victoria hit a tree with her whole side. The tree broke. She fell through it and into the next tree and stopped there. For a long second, neither of them moved. Then James stood up, brushed his jacket with the casual disinterest of a man who had been sideswiped by a slow bicycle, and bowed. "All right," he said into the trees. "All right." "That's a fair opening." Victoria stood up too. Her hair was full of pine needles. She looked at Harry with a hunger that had nothing to do with blood, the kind of hunger a sword fighter gets in her teeth when she has, against expectation, finally met a fencer. "Run," Harry said quietly. "Run now." They ran. He found Bella in the wardrobe because he had told her to. She came out with her hair wild, her cheeks bright, her eyes on fire with a kind of attention he had not seen in her yet. She did not throw herself at him. She did not cry. She put her hand on his chest once gently and said, "I heard the wards hum." "They were meant to, you used." She hunted for the word. "You used a lot of magic." "Yes." "And they ran." "Yes, Harry, I wounded him. He'll heal. They'll come back. Not tonight, not this week probably. I need to call Alice. Alice Cullen, I'll tell you." "Call her?" He did. Alice answered on the first ring as though the call were something she had been standing beside for half an hour waiting for, which, knowing Alice, was likely. She said, without preamble, "I saw. Are you both all right?" He said they were. She said, "James never knew you were even a possibility. This is going to slow him down. He will want to rebuild his strategy. That will buy us 2 weeks. The family is moving up the timeline. We will be in the house Monday morning. Carlisle will call." She said, "Give my love to Bella," and hung up. Bella was watching him. "Harry, yes. I want you to drive me home now. Yes. Don't come in. Let my dad sleep. Call me in the morning. All right." She got her coat. They were halfway down the drive when he became aware, through the inside listening, that the wards at the 101 had been brushed very lightly by a patrol car. Charlie's patrol car. Charlie, on a night off, was driving the road that led up to Harry's house slowly, as a cop did when he was looking at a road for a reason. The radio in the truck, which had been off, clicked on. Harry stopped at the bottom of the drive. He put the truck in park. Charlie's cruiser came around the bend. Its lights were not on. The driver's window was down. "Bells," Charlie said. He did not raise his voice. He did not smile. "Hop in with me. Harry, go home. We'll talk tomorrow." "Dad, hop in, honey." She looked at Harry. "Go," Harry said quietly. She got out of the truck and into the cruiser. The door shut. Charlie looked at Harry for a long second through the open driver's window. "Got a call half an hour ago," Charlie said flat. "Hiker found on the 101. Throat cut. No animal tracks. Fresh. My deputies are up there now." I don't know what I think about you and my daughter tonight, Harry Potter, and I don't have time tonight to know, so you go home and you sleep and you call me when you wake up. I will want to talk. Yes, sir, Charlie. Yes, Charlie. Charlie nodded once, rolled his window up, turned the cruiser around, and drove down the 101 with Bella small and white in the passenger seat. She did not turn around to look at Harry. She did once put her palm flat against the cold glass of the passenger window for the length of a single heartbeat and then let it drop. Harry watched them go. Then he drove up his own drive, past the wards, into his own garden, over the broken stones that James and Victoria had crossed. The foxgloves in the glass jar dome had come through unharmed. The witch hazel was still putting out its faint yellow scent. He stood in the middle of the circle a long moment, breathing, until the wand in his hand stopped trembling. He lifted the wand and with a flick, smoothed the ring of stones back into place. He repaired the broken tree. He smoothed the torn path and replanted the snowdrops, which had not been touched but which he fussed over anyway, because his hands needed something to do. He went inside. He shut the door and leaned against it, and for the first time in 5 days swore softly and badly in English. Then he went upstairs and slept. Chapter 5 and Chapter 6. Carlisle Harry woke at dawn with a phone on his pillow and a headache behind both his eyes and called Charlie. Chief, Potter. Can I come over? You can come to the station. 20 minutes. He went. The Forks Police Department occupied a single story of brick at the corner of Main and Bogachiel Way. The sign out front had been painted the autumn before last. A deputy at the front desk, who was Lloyd, nodded him through without looking up from a crossword. Charlie was in the back office with a coffee and a file. He shut the file when Harry came in. Sit. Yes, sir, Charlie. Charlie took a long breath. The kind of breath a man takes when he has not decided what he is going to say until he hears himself saying it. 2 nights ago, Charlie said, you stopped a van with your hand. Yes. Last night a hiker was found on the 101 with his throat cut. No prints, no tracks, no vehicle marks. The me says an animal, but the me is guessing. There are no animals in the county that kill a man and don't feed. No. Bella came home last night white as a sheet. She wouldn't look at me. She wouldn't tell me where she'd been. I could smell the smoke of a fire on her coat. There was a fire at my house last night. Yes. I had an unexpected guest on my property. He tried to make trouble. I made him leave. There was some fire because I used it. Bella was inside the house. She was not in danger. She is not in danger now. Charlie looked at him a long time. Charlie's face when Charlie was being professional was a door. The door had a small, careful window in it through which Charlie had decided in the last 2 days to let Harry look. The window was not yet fully open. It was not yet fully closed. The man from last night. Is a problem I am addressing. A problem you are addressing? Yes. You don't want to involve the police. No, sir, Charlie, he is not a police problem. He is not a problem you would. He is a problem you don't have the tools for. It isn't an insult. It is a fact. You have the tools? Yes. And the hiker? I will find out about the hiker. You will, Charlie. I will find out. I will tell you what I find out. I will tell you as much as I can. There will be some of it you will not believe. There will be some of it I won't ask you to believe. Some of it I will, and I will need you to for a short while, trust me. I understand I have not earned that yet. Charlie rotated his coffee a quarter turn in his hand. He put the mug down. He folded his arms. My daughter is, he said. My daughter is 17 years old and she is half a mother to me, and she has been since she was 10. I have worked very hard not to need that from her. I'm not good at needing things. I don't have a lot of words. I had her last night sit on the couch and tell me she was fine and then cry into a dish towel and then tell me she had been fine the whole time. It was the first time she has told me an honest lie in 6 years. Charlie, I'm not done, sorry. I do not want her to be a 17-year-old who lies to me. I would rather know she was in danger than know she was lying to me. She is not in danger. She was in danger last night for approximately 4 minutes. She is not in danger now. And she won't be tomorrow. No, sir, Charlie. Charlie, no, she won't be tomorrow. I will be sure of that. Charlie looked at him another long moment. Who are you? He said, very soft. I'm Harry Potter. I came here to be quiet. I have found a problem I have to deal with. When I am done dealing with it, I would, if I am welcome, like to stay. I am very fond of your daughter. She is the best thing I have met in this country. I am not going to hurt her. I would die before I allowed her to be hurt. If that is too much, say so, and I will be gone from her life by tomorrow morning. You wouldn't go gracefully. You want to stay. I do want to stay. Then stay. Charlie, stay. Come over Wednesday for dinner. Bring nothing. Sit at my table. Talk to my daughter. Don't lie to me about any of it. I'll decide what I can believe as I go. Deal? Deal. Get out of my station, Potter. Yes, sir. Charlie? Yes, Charlie. Monday morning he went to the hospital. Forks Community Hospital was small and clean and practical, the kind of rural hospital that did the ordinary things well and sent the hard things up to Port Angeles in an ambulance or a helicopter. Harry parked and crossed the lot and asked at the desk for Dr. Cullen, and the nurse at the desk said with a slow, pleased smile, "Oh, he just got in. They just got in on Saturday. I'll page him. You want to wait in the chapel, hon. It's the nicest place to sit." Harry waited in the chapel. It was 4 pews and a framed watercolor of the Olympic range and a window with a cross cut into its upper sash. He was the only person there. He sat with his hands on his knees. A footstep, entirely silent, came up behind him. He did not turn around. "I won't hurt you," said a very calm voice. "I know. I was asked to come alone. I came alone. Thank you. I wanted to say, before anything else, that it is a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Potter. I have wanted to meet a living wizard all of my very long life, and my sister tells me I am now on the short list. I appreciate your patience." Harry stood up and turned around. Carlisle Cullen was not tall in the exaggerated way Alice had given him to expect. He was medium and spare and carried himself with the quiet authority of a man who had been in emergency rooms for 100 years. He had golden eyes, a neat white coat over gray trousers, a faint British cadence under a careful American one, and a face that wanted, very obviously, to be trusted. "Dr. Cullen." "Harry, please. Carlisle, if you like." "Carlisle, Alice has told me everything. She has very little filter when she is excited, and I assure you, she is excited. I have been reading, you will forgive me, one of the few accurate books about your kind I have in my library. I was a physician in London for the last quarter of the 18th century, and I knew 2 wizards then, briefly, at a distance. One was a dueling instructor. One was a very bad banker. I had always hoped to meet another under better circumstances. These are not better, no, alas. But they are the circumstances. May we walk? They walked. Carlisle took him out the back of the hospital and along a gravel path to a small garden under an awning where smokers went when they weren't officially smoking. The garden was empty and muddy. Carlisle did not sit. Harry did not sit either, James, Carlisle said. James has been known to me for some years. He is a problem the world has tolerated because he is small. I would like very much to end him before he gets any larger. Yes. I have 6 people at your disposal if you will have us. I say 6 because my son Edward is still in Denali, and it is better, for reasons I imagine you know, to keep him out of this for another few days. He is not informed. My other 5 will be fully informed today by lunchtime. They are at the house. If you would come and meet them, they would be grateful. Emmett, especially, would be grateful. He has been in a very good mood ever since Alice told him. Why would Emmett be in a good mood about this? Because Emmett likes a fight he has not picked for himself. Ah. Rosalie, in contrast, is furious. I would have you know this before you meet her. The fury is not directed at you. It is directed at the situation. Rosalie likes a small life. The Bella Swan of it all has discomfited her. I understand. Jasper will want to ask you about your kind of magic. He is a tactician. He is the closest thing I have to a soldier in my family, and he considers himself underinformed. He will have written questions. Good. Esme will offer you food. Good. Alice has already declared you family. I apologize for her. Please don't. I won't. They had stopped. The mud of the smoker's patio had been kind to Harry's boots. Carlisle looked at him with eyes that were gold and worn and beneath the gold kind. Harry, he said quietly, when this is over, regardless of what happens, I would like to ask to correspond with you on a scholarly basis. It is a small request I have been practicing in my head since Saturday. I did not want to ask while you were under pressure. Ask me after, Harry said, and put his hand out. Carlisle took it. His hand was cool and careful. It had held the wrists of thousands of people. It had set bone and eased the last hour of a dying man, and a lot less often than a human imagined, it had closed around a living heart to keep it beating. It shook Harry's once with the brief dignity of a colleague in a different hospital. 3 o'clock, Carlyle said. At the house. Alice will drive into town and pick you up if you prefer. I can find the house. Of course you can. He had the afternoon. He drove home 8, wrote Hermione a short letter he would send by owl on Wednesday, and at 2:30 got in the truck and drove over the river to the house he had, earlier in the week, stood inside as a trespasser. He came up the drive at 3 on the dot. A man he had seen only in a photograph, tall, broad, black-haired, with a grin that was not trying to be friendly and was therefore very friendly, was leaning against a black Jeep in the drive. "Harry Potter," the man said. "Emmett?" "Yeah, hello. Hey, come on, everybody's inside. Alice told us not to form opinions of you until we shook your hand, so I'm going to shake your hand in a second and then form a lot of them." "All right." Emmett shook his hand. He did not crush it. He held it a careful half-second longer than a man would have, as though he were reading a book through his palm, and then let it go. His grin went wider. "Oh, I like you," he said, pleased. "Yeah, okay, Alice was right. Alice is always right. Come in." He led Harry in. The living room, which had been cold and abandoned the last time Harry had walked through it, was full. There were more lamps on than there had been lamps to have. The fire had a long yellow light in it. Carlyle stood at the mantel, Esme beside him, a slight, motherly woman with caramel hair. Alice stood in the middle of the room, visibly trying not to hop on her toes. Jasper stood a little apart, slim and blond and marked with small, pale, ancient scars that showed at his throat and at the edges of his wrists where the shirt ended. His hands were loose. Rosalie sat on the arm of a chair. She was the most beautiful person Harry had ever seen, and she looked at him with the stony, disinterested attention of a very beautiful person who did not like being won. "This," Alice said, "is Harry." "Hello," Harry said. "Hello," said Carlyle, Esme, and Jasper. "Hi," said Alice. "Hi," said Emmett. Rosalie said nothing. Esme crossed the room and hugged him. He hadn't seen the hug coming, and he didn't know how he would have ducked it if he had, because Esme Cullen went straight to him with the kind of soft, indirect motherly certainty that women of her era had learned to cultivate for use in parlors with strangers. She hugged him tightly, one hand on the back of his head for one heartbeat, the time it took her to decide he was the boy her husband and her daughter had promised her, and then she let him go. "I am so glad you are here," she said quite firmly. "Thank you. You look tired." "I am tired." "Alice told me you have been making cherry preserves. That is a very serious activity. We will have tea." Esme, "No arguments, Harry. Tea." Rosalie made a sound that was not quite a scoff. They all sat. Tea was made. It was, Harry noted privately, astonishingly good tea. Esme had, at some point in her long afterlife, taught herself to brew tea to the precise sort of comfort an old Englishman would respect. He took 2 cups. Jasper cleared his throat. "I have," he said, "questions. I noticed. May I ask?" "Please?" For the next 40 minutes Jasper, in a careful Southern-accented monotone, took Harry through a list that had been prepared on a yellow legal pad. Range of magic, time to execute, time to recover, duration of standing wards, methods of anchoring wards to geography. Whether location-based magic could be ported, whether a magical signature once made could be tracked back to the caster by a gifted vampire, whether blood was a component, whether words were necessary, Harry answered. He answered carefully and truthfully. Where there was a limit, he named it. Where there was an advantage, he named it. Where a statement of his abilities could safely be made without putting him at risk, he made it. Jasper made neat, small notes. Alice watched the clock on the mantel. Occasionally, halfway through, she interrupted. "Harry?" "Yes. I just had a vision." The room went very still. "A man in a long coat," Alice said, "at the edge of the woods behind your house, not a vampire, not you. He has a wooden stick in his hand, a wand darker than yours. It's curved a little. He's looking up at your windows. He does not know I am seeing him." "When?" "Not tonight, not tomorrow. 3 days, maybe 4. The light is morning light. I saw the cedars very clearly. I saw a crow on the chimney. The man's face, I can't see his face. There's," she frowned, "there's something like a hood but not a hood, a glamour maybe. Age, older than you." Not old, white hair, lean, tall, very straight. There is a mark on his left arm, a dark mark, like a brand that wants to be seen and is hiding. I can't see it properly. Harry set his teacup down. Very carefully, Carlyle, watching him, said, "You know who?" "I can guess." "Who?" "In my country there was a family called the Lestranges, husband and wife, supporters of the war we had. Very old family, very old money, very old blood. The wife died at the end of it. The husband escaped Azkaban, our prison, 11 months ago. We have been looking for him. He is a man with reasons to hate me. The ministry had tracked him as far as northern France, then lost him. He has obviously come farther." "Hate you," Carlyle said. "His wife tried to kill me when I was 15. She killed my godfather. I killed her at the end of the war." Esme, quiet. "I am sorry, Harry. Thank you." Rosalie from the chair had not moved. She said dryly in a voice like cool water on a hot stone, "How charming this day has been." "Rose," Emmett started. "No," Rosalie said. "I am simply noting a tracker is after the chief constable's daughter. A witch hunter is coming for the boy. We are being pulled into a war that started on 2 continents before either of us had an opinion on it. I will fight because Carlyle and Esme will fight, and I will not leave them, but I am noting—" Harry looked at her. "Mrs. Hale," he said after a long beat. Dr. Hale, may I speak to you a moment?" She looked at him a moment, considering. Then she stood, crossed the room, and opened the front door and stepped out onto the porch. Harry stood too and followed her. The porch was empty and cold. The river below the house was slate and slow. Rosalie leaned against the post at the top of the steps and looked out at the gray water with her long, disdainful patience, the patience of a woman who had, in life, been taught to wait. "I am sorry," Harry said. She glanced at him. "I am sorry," he said again, "for being here. For bringing this to your door. For making you choose between a small life and your family. I am not going to ask for your forgiveness. I don't know you well enough to ask for it. But I want you to know that I see what I am costing you. I was told to bring nothing today, but I should have brought you flowers." Rosalie stared at him, then she laughed. It was a short, astonished laugh, as though a bird had done something impossible in a tree she hadn't been watching. "I," she said, "did not expect that. I know. You have been very carefully trained. I have, by a woman, by 3. Good." She turned her eyes back to the water. "Don't get cute with me, English boy. If you die here, I will be upset. If my husband dies because of you, I will hunt you down in whatever afterlife you have, and I will make you uncomfortable in it. Do we understand each other? We do. Then we can go back inside. All right. And Harry Potter?" "Yes. When we fight, because we will fight, do not assume I will not kill for my family. I have killed for much less." "Noted." She went in first. Harry stood on the porch a moment, alone, the gray river in his eyes. Then he followed. Jacob and Sam Uli came to the Cullen house at 5. They came up on foot through the river road in plain view as per the treaty. They stood at the edge of the property line. Carlyle met them there. Harry went with him. Emmett came too, a step behind, and stayed quiet. The rest stayed on the porch. Sam Uli was taller than Harry had expected, broader across the shoulders, with the reluctant weight of a man who had not wanted to be the one in charge and had accepted it. His eyes were kind. His mouth was not. "Carlyle, Sam, Mr. Potter, Sam, my father sent me, and Billy sent Jacob. We would like to ask you a question." "Ask. Is the man coming for you? Is he going to step on our land?" Harry thought about it. "He may try," he said. "I will try to keep him from it. Try hard." "I will. You will tell us before he comes." "Yes. We will be by the river tomorrow at sundown. We will pick up patrol on our side. You do your side. If we see him first, we come across." "Understood. Carlyle, Sam, your boy, the one in Alaska. He will be back by Friday. I would prefer Thursday, so would I. Have him back Thursday. I will try. Good." Sam turned and walked into the trees. Jacob hung back a moment. He looked at Harry. "Billy said to tell you," he said, quiet. "You are welcome on La Push land if things get bad enough. Not invited. Welcome? Thank Billy. He also said to tell you he does not want you to come unless things get bad enough. He would prefer you handled your own." "I understand. Bells is fine. Okay." Jacob considered him and then, surprisingly, put his hand out and offered it. Harry took it. Jacob's hand was warm and hard and a little rough and too hot, the way the hands of his kind would always be too hot to Harry's attention. He shook it firmly and let it go. "Don't die, English." Trying not to, Jacob grinned, the boyish grin again, surprising in that face, and went. Carlyle watched them go, then he looked at Harry. "That was as polite a request to prepare for war," he said, "as I have heard in 100 years. Yes. Do you know," Carlyle said mildly, "I do not think I'm afraid. Good. I will of course become afraid in a day or two. Good, Harry. Yes, go home, sleep. Tomorrow morning before school come here, we'll plan. Alice has been seeing maps all afternoon and she is afraid of forgetting them. All right, Harry. Yes, does Bella know?" he thought. "She knows there is a man in a coat at the edge of the woods. Good. She does not know who? Tell her." "I will tell her before Edward gets here." Yes, Carlyle nodded. The lamps behind the big windows glowed. The river moved. Somewhere down the 101, Charlie Swan was driving home from a shift, and Bella was in the Swan kitchen doing her homework at the table. And a man Alice had not yet seen the face of was at this moment in an airport in Seattle with a coat that was too long for the country he had just entered, and a wand at his wrist that would not have passed through any human scanner because it did not choose to. Harry drove home. He parked in his drive. He stopped the truck. He sat a moment. Then he got out and found, nailed to his front door with a thin silver nail that had not been made in a Muggle factory, a small yellowed photograph. A girl, 5 years old, holding a fish, Bella. Charlie's hallway photograph, lifted or copied or glamoured from it. Pinned by a silver nail through the forehead, no signature, no note. Harry took the photograph off the door. He did not touch the nail. The nail would have a trace on it. He would examine it in the morning at the Cullens with Jasper and Alice and Carlyle looking over his shoulder. He put the photograph in his pocket. He went inside. He did not sleep particularly well. Chapter 6 and Chapter 7. The hunt begins on the first morning of a school week that would end in fire. Harry Potter drove to the Cullen house before dawn and put a small yellowed photograph on the kitchen island. "This was on my front door last night," he said. 5 of the Cullens gathered around it: Carlyle, Esme, Alice, Jasper, Rosalie. Emmett was doing a perimeter walk outside. The kitchen smelled of nothing, because nothing in the kitchen had ever cooked. But Esme had put on a pot of coffee at the precise moment Harry's truck had turned in the drive because, having read a book about the British in 1798, she had concluded that Englishmen did their best thinking with coffee in their hands. It was also astonishingly good coffee. "This is Bella," Carlyle said. "This is a photograph on Chief Swan's hallway wall," Harry said, "as of yesterday afternoon. It was taken when she was 5. It was lifted out of the frame sometime between when Bella left the house for school and when I came home from your house last night." "Inside," Jasper said, quiet. "Inside Charlie Swan's house." "Yes, without Charlie Swan hearing it." "Silent entry and silent exit," Jasper said. "Pre-mapped?" "Yes." "He has been casing for some time." Alice put a small, pale finger next to the photograph. "May I?" "Yes." She closed her eyes. Her small body went absolutely still, and Harry, who had seen a ministry legiliman's work once in a sealed room, recognized in the stillness of her face the same kind of inward, unshakable attention. She was gone in the photograph for a long second. 2, 3, she opened her eyes. 3 days. Alice said, "He will be at your back door 3 days from now, morning light. He is wearing a ring on his right hand, a black ring, heavy. He does not appear to know I am watching. Do you see his face?" "No." "Why, he is protecting it. Your kind has tricks with sight." "Yes, Harry." "I know. He is a practiced man. He was the second best dueler in the Death Eater ranks. The first was a woman. I killed her. He would like very much to balance a scale." Rosalie, leaning against the far counter, said, "And the tracker, meanwhile, is in the woods." "And the tracker is in the woods. What do you want from us?" she said. "Today I want 2 things. I want one of you," he turned to look at Jasper, "to teach me in 2 hours over the next week the best way to fight a vampire who has decided he will not die quietly. I know what my kind has on paper. I do not know what a vampire who has spent 200 years surviving will actually try. I want to know what you would try. I want to know what James is likely to try. I want to know what Victoria is likely to try. I want to know what you think I will get wrong so I do not get it wrong." "Yes," Jasper said simply. The second thing, I want to put wards on Charlie Swan's house tonight. Bella and I will tell him an inch of the truth first. Whatever inch it takes to keep him from arresting me for witchcraft in the kitchen. I would like Esme or Alice to come with me when I do this, because if I am alone in Charlie's house at night he will shoot me. I'll come, Alice said. Good. And the third thing, Esme said kindly. Harry looked at her. Eat something before you go to school, she said. I have eggs. You don't eat eggs. I keep eggs in this house for guests. I have been in this country for 2 days. I have eggs. I eat. He ate. Esme Cullen's eggs were, he thought privately, one of the 3 best breakfasts he had had since leaving Britain, including breakfasts at the Borough. He did not say so. He did, however, accept a second helping, and that was enough. Edward Cullen came home on Wednesday. He came home the way he had left, by driving. He had taken a slow highway route back from Denali over 3 days, because the decisions he had been making in Tanya's kitchen had been the decisions of a person who did not know whether he was going back to Forks until, at some point somewhere in eastern Washington, he had known he was. He pulled up at the house at 11 at night on Tuesday and did not come into the house. He simply parked the silver Volvo in the drive and sat in it until morning with the door half open, reading, of all unfashionable things, an old and broken-backed copy of Wuthering Heights. The same woman in the book was reading in Mrs. Harper's second-period English class a mile and a half away. Alice went out to the car at 6:30 on Wednesday with a thermos of warm goat's blood she had been planning to make him for 4 days and a small, carefully composed face. They talked for an hour in the drive. She did not show him the whole thing. She showed him the outline of it. She showed him there was a girl. She did not show him yet the girl. Edward arrived at Forks High at 8:15 in the silver Volvo, parked in the far corner of the student lot, got out, and stood very still with his hands in his pockets until a group of freshman girls who could not, in their lives, have said what made them turn to stare. He walked into the building without acknowledging them. He found the main office. He enrolled. He got the locker he had had 3 years before. He walked to Mr. Varner's calculus room and sat in the back left seat, which was the seat he had always sat in, because Edward Cullen did not change a chair that had, historically, worked. He did not go to biology, not at first. Alice had bargained with him. She had said, I want you to meet the girl. I want you to meet her with Harry. I want you to meet them both together in the cafeteria at lunch. I want you to do it with 500 witnesses because I do not trust you not to do it stupidly alone. He had not agreed. He had said politely, I will try. Alice had, in the short time between Saturday morning and Wednesday morning, decided several things about her brother. One of them was that I will try was a promise only when he said it in a particular tone, and the tone he had used with her had not been that tone. So she had, without saying so, alerted Jasper, who had a gift that worked at longer range than most, and Jasper had, for the entirety of Wednesday morning, quietly held the edge of Edward's emotional range steady from a house 2 miles away. It was not mind control. It was the temperature on a thermostat being held a reasonable 4 degrees off the spike. At lunch, Edward walked into the cafeteria. Harry saw him before Bella did, because the inside listening saw him first. The dead cold Trace, vampire-shaped, smelling faintly of the leather of a European car, walked in the west entrance. Harry, sitting with Mike and Angela and Bella and the others at the senior table near the windows, turned his head 1/4 of an inch and did not put his fork down. Bella felt him turn. She looked up. She was mid-sentence with Angela about a weekend movie she had not yet seen. She stopped. Edward stopped too. He stopped because he had walked into a room expecting to hear 300 minds and he was hearing 298. 2 of them were silent. One was the girl whose scent he had smelled from the parking lot, a scent he had, on a portion of his drive from Denali, been frightened by even in the abstract. The other was a boy at her table with dark hair and glasses and an easy green-eyed gaze, and the boy's mind was not merely silent. It was politely closed, like a door, with a brass plate on it that read out of office. Edward had never seen anything like it. He kept walking. He walked in a straight line across the cafeteria to the table. Mike Newton looked up. Jessica Stanley looked up. Angela's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. Ben Chaney went visibly still. All around the senior table, the background murmur of 500 teenagers dipped a fraction of a decibel, not because anybody heard anything, but because some of the teenagers had been, for 7 months, waiting for the Cullens to come back, and now one was in the room. Bella Swan. Edward said politely. "Hi," Bella said politely. "I'm Edward Cullen. I'm new here, I know. Of course you do." "Hi," Harry said without moving. "Harry Potter." Edward's eyes came very carefully to Harry's. "Alice has told me a great deal about you. Likewise, may I sit, if you like?" Jessica, stepping on her own foot under the table in her haste to be helpful, said, "Of course, Eric, scoot." Eric scooted. Edward sat. He sat opposite Harry, diagonal to Bella. He placed his hands neatly on the table. He did not touch food because he did not eat. He looked at Bella with the kind of helpless attentiveness a man gives to a woman he has been told, 36 hours earlier, was his exact fate. And then, because there was a boy across the table, his eyes were pulled away from her by the effort of his own courtesy and put on Harry. They stayed there. For a half-second, Harry saw the exact shape of it and the exact shape of how hard Edward was not going to fight against that shape. Good, Harry thought. "Harry," Edward said evenly, "my sister has asked me to be, for the next 20 minutes, polite. I will endeavor to do so. I have questions for you. I will save most of them for a more private conversation." "All right. May I walk with you and Miss Swan to class? Bella will decide." "Miss Swan, you can walk with us," Bella said after a half-second, "as long as you tell Alice afterward exactly what you did." "Ah. She briefed you?" "She came to my house last night at 11 and drank tea with my father, and now my father thinks she's adorable." "That would be Alice." "Yeah." Edward smiled. It was a careful smile. It did not reach his eyes the way his smiles had not reached his eyes in 80 years. They walked to biology. In the hallway, Edward stayed 2 paces behind Bella and Harry. He did not try to take her elbow. He did not close the gap. He was, Harry privately thought, being heroic. In the stairwell between C and B wings, Harry stopped at the landing, turned sideways, and said over his shoulder to Edward, "Try it once, and you'll learn I don't forgive twice." "I have no intention of trying anything." "Good, Harry." "Yes, she has been chosen. By you." "By the shape of—" "No." "By the shape of Harry, please." "No, she has not been chosen by anything. She is a person. She has chosen me for the moment, and I have chosen her for the moment, and your biology and your sense and your Januaries are not on the table. Alice will have told you this. I am telling you again. Do not, Edward, decide who Bella is or is not. Do not narrate her to yourself as a fate. She is a human being at the edge of a hard winter. She is my friend. She will go on being my friend whether or not she continues to be anything else to me. If you make her anything less than a human being to yourself, I will personally and without apology ruin your afternoon." Edward was silent a long second. Bella, at Harry's elbow, was breathing carefully, the way a person breathes who has decided not to say anything yet. Edward inclined his head. "Agreed," he said. "Good." They went on. Biology on that Wednesday was the ordinary biology of 2 lab partners who had agreed, by a set of small glances, not to discuss what had just happened. Mr. Banner talked about meiosis. Harry drew a diagram. Bella labeled it. Twice their hands touched on a shared pencil, and twice neither of them made anything of it. Edward sat with Mike Newton across the room, pretending not to watching. At the end of the period, the intercom popped with the static of a hallway microphone being keyed on. Mrs. Cope's voice strained. All staff lockdown. Please lock your doors. Students, remain in your classrooms." Mr. Banner looked up sharply. He crossed to the door. He locked it. The shade on the window was down already. Because the winter light was low, he checked it anyway. Harry's inside listening was not wondering what had happened. Harry's inside listening had already told him what had happened. He had felt it, through the school, at the precise instant the intercom had popped. A cold, dead trace had stepped into the east entrance of the building. James. Not to hurt him. To put something near Bella Swan, a scent marker, a taunt, a small dead object on a locker shelf, the kind of work a hunter did when he was amusing himself before the kill. James was intelligent and he was bored. The cafeteria encounter had not been his. This, at 1 in the afternoon in a hallway near the senior lockers, was. Harry stood. Harry, Mr. Banner said sharply. I need to go to the main office, Harry said. I left my inhaler in my coat. If I have an attack in here, I'll ruin your carpet. Harry. I'll go straight there and straight back. The lockdown, I'll be careful. He let Mr. Banner believe him because Mr. Banner wanted to. He was out the door before Mr. Banner had finished saying he should not go. Bella behind him had stood. Edward across the room had stood. Mr. Banner turned on Edward because he was closer. Harry was already in the hallway. The hallway was empty. The lockers were green and yellow, and every other one had a magnetic photograph or a holiday sticker. The fluorescent lights, which the district had retrofitted the summer before, hummed evenly. Harry walked fast, not a run, a walk. He had his wand in his right sleeve. He opened the inside, listening wide. James was in the senior hallway on the far side of the building, moving without sound on the balls of his feet, one of the fire doors ajar behind him. He had his coat off. He was holding something small in his left hand. A braid of hair, Harry realized, 3 feet away in the span of a blink. Bella's hair, taken from her hairbrush from her bedroom on the afternoon he had lifted the photograph. James was going to nail it to her locker. That was all. A small prank done in a crowded school in broad daylight while she was one of 30 people in a classroom across the building, an advertisement of his access. The hunter's small cruelty. I can come into your world whenever I choose. Harry rounded the corner. James saw him. For one long second, the predator's face registered surprise, the surprise of a man who had not expected to be caught, because he had been trained by 180 years of practice to not be caught. For one long second after that, he registered delight, because being caught meant sport. Harry had a spell ready. He did not throw it. He had remembered at the last possible second something Jasper had told him the day before. James, when cornered in a hallway, will not charge you. He will throw something through a window behind him and try to lead you into the outdoors. He fights poorly inside a small space and knows it. If you pin him inside, he will break a wall. He will break a wall if he has to break a child through it to do it. Plant your ward to catch the wall, not the vampire. Harry did. He did it in one motion. Wand down, not up. A sweep along the line of the corridor. Pratigo Colossius, a ward of the old Auror sort, not to shield a person but to shield an architecture, binding the wall behind James to itself, as though every brick had just become 1,000 interlocking bricks whose bond could not be broken by any force less than a blasting charm. The ward settled into the building with a soft, inaudible hum. The row of lockers at James's back went, for a half-second, very faintly silver. James, who had expected a fireball, laughed. Clever. That's clever. Fine. He turned to run. The Cullens were in the corridor behind him. Jasper at the back door. Emmett at the far stairwell. Edward just arrived at the corner Harry had come around. He had slipped the biology class during the half-second Harry had spent in the hallway, and Edward Cullen at a dead sprint was a different kind of animal altogether. Carlyle had no gift for running and was not there. Rosalie was not there. Alice was not there because Alice had stayed with Bella. James's face for 1/3 of a second was annoyed, then it was happy. Oh good, he said. More of you. He broke the wall. He did it through a window, not the ward. He went backwards through a double-paned sash pane hard enough to rain glass into the lawn beyond. The jagged hole in the window did not reach the load-bearing studs of the wall, because the window was set in drywall, and the drywall had been included in Harry's Colossius binding. James had remembered that and had gone through the glass anyway, because James had been fighting for 200 years and knew when to lose a card to save a game. He was in the lawn. He was running. He was at the tree line. Emmett and Jasper went after him. Harry did not. He stood in the hallway with his wand at his side, the braid of Bella's hair now on the floor at his feet, abandoned in James's flight. He listened. The sirens came up on the 101. The PE coach, who had heard the window go, was running down the hall from the gym. Mrs. Cope's voice came back on the intercom apologizing and unlocking the school. Mr. Banner, at the door of Biology 7 with Bella and Edward by his side, saw Harry down the long corridor and put his hand over his own mouth. Edward, who had been holding Bella's elbow lightly, which Harry observed and catalogued and chose not to act on because Bella had not moved away, walked down the hall quickly to Harry. "Emmett and Jasper have him at the river," Edward said, quiet. "He's running north. They are not going to catch him on ground. They will hand off to the wolves at the property line." "Good, Harry, pick up the braid." "What, pick up the braid? She can't see it." Edward bent and picked up the braid. He slipped it into his inner pocket. He straightened. He looked at Harry. "That was," he said. "Clever," Harry said. "Jasper told me he would try it." "Yes, thank you for coming. You thanked Alice this morning. I am thanking you now, Harry." "Yes, she is so small." Harry looked at him. "She is," Harry said carefully, "as small as any person is. She is also made of the same bones as Mrs. Cope, who I watched lock a school this morning with the hands of a woman who knew exactly what to do. You are going to find, Edward Cullen, that people are bigger than you think." Edward, for the first time that day, laughed. "I am beginning to suspect." He said that I have underestimated a great many things. Start with yourself. Work out. They covered the hallway incident by saying a bear had come through a window. The bear had conveniently run before the school had seen it properly. The lawn was torn up where James had landed. The window had been broken. Mrs. Cope had not had to lie because Mrs. Cope had, at the moment of the pop of the intercom, been told by Edward, who had moved faster than any secretary had ever heard of anyone moving, that she was going to turn the intercom on and announce a lockdown, and that she would remember 5 minutes later, having seen a bear move across the back parking lot, and that this would be true because Jasper Whitlock, who had been outside at the window she had been looking through, had indeed arranged for her to see one on his way in. Bears had been arranged for in Forks for many years by the Cullens, and the town did not ask too many questions about any bear that did not eat anybody. Harry drove home at 3 with his wand in his sleeve and a braid of brown hair in a lead-lined pouch in the glove box. The driveway was clear. The porch was clear. The front door was not. Nailed to the boards of the door at eye level was a crow. It was dead. It had been dead a few hours. Its wings had been spread carefully and nailed at the primary feathers with 2 more silver nails that were not from any Muggle factory. Its beak had been wired shut. In front of its breast, between its feet, a 3rd nail held, folded twice, a small square of parchment. Harry looked at the parchment for a long moment before he took it down. He did not touch the nails. He used the tip of his wand to unpick the parchment from under the nail, a very minor work of levitation, harmless. He unfolded the parchment in the air in front of him. The writing on it was in a neat, spidery black hand in English in a very old-fashioned pen. "I have watched your girl for a week. I have watched your coven of red eyes make themselves useful to you. I have watched you spend your magic on the hunter. Save some. You will need it. Your friends will burn first. R." He read it through once. He read it through twice. Then he folded it carefully, precisely along the original creases. He put it in his coat pocket, next to the photograph of Bella at 5 with a fish. He took the crow down. He burned it in the fire in his living room, quickly, cleanly, the way he had been taught to deal with small dead omens. He burned the nails too. They burned poorly with a black smoke that smelled of something sour and old, and when they were gone the smoke cleared and the fire went clean again. He stood in front of the fire a long time, then he picked up the phone. "Alice, I know. He is faster than I thought. He is sloppy. Is he? He is signing his work. That is sloppy. Harry, we go tonight. I am not going to give him 3 more days. I am going to pull him out of his hiding place and end him tonight. I will come to your house. Tell Carlisle, tell Jasper. I need Jasper. Do not tell the wolves yet. I will tell Billy myself in person after. Yes, Alice. Yes. Edward will not come. He will want to come. Edward will not come. He will stay at my house with Bella. She will be there by 7. Charlie will think she is there because Alice is there too, which Alice will be, because Alice will come in the door with her and then leave again through the back window, which Charlie will not hear. Edward will stay. He will not leave. Esme will sit at the table with them. If anything moves through my wards, Esme will drop them and scream, because my wards will hear Esme scream and they will tell me. All right, Alice. Yes, thank you. He put the phone down. He went up the stairs to the small room where he had put the candle the week before with a girl who had, until 6 days ago, never heard of him. He opened the drawer of the small desk that had come with the house. He took out the cloak of his mother's father's fathers and put it carefully around his shoulders. He went back downstairs. He put on his boots. He went to meet the Cullens. Chapter 7 and Chapter 8. 2 monsters the Cullens' dining room had, until Wednesday evening, never been used for dining. It had been kept, like the kitchen, as a stage, a long walnut table, 8 hand-carved chairs. A set of silver candelabra Esme had bought in a Paris auction in 1922 because she had liked the way they caught light. Nobody had ever eaten off the table. Nobody in the family had ever, in fact, sat at it. When the Cullens moved into a house, Esme set the dining room. When the Cullens moved out of a house, Esme took the dining room with her. It was the closest thing she had to a religion. At 6:20 on Wednesday, the dining room acquired, for the first time in its carefully maintained existence, a function. Harry rolled a topographical map of Clallam County out on the table and weighted its corners with 4 wineglasses Carlyle had produced from the sideboard because wineglasses were, he said mildly, the correct shape to hold down a map. Alice put a smaller map of downtown Forks on top of it. Jasper laid, with a soldier's neatness, a hand-drawn diagram of the 101 from Tyee to Sappho. Carlyle, at the head, brought a pen. Esme brought, from a drawer, a compass, an antique brass compass that had crossed the Atlantic twice, and set it north. Emmett leaned in the doorway and said, "Are we planning? Are we doing this? I'm in." "Sit down, Emmett," Esme said. "Yes, ma'am." Rosalie, who had come in last, put a long, elegant hand on the back of a chair and did not sit. "I'm listening," she said. Harry looked at them. He had been making himself look calm for an hour. He had driven to the Cullen house with Esme's pot of coffee in his stomach, and a dead crow's smoke still clinging faintly to the inside of his nose. And he had, in the drive, rehearsed what he was going to say to the 6 people around this table. He had come to it the way a man came to an oral briefing because that was what he knew. He had prepared his tone. He had prepared his order of items. He had prepared the sentences he was going to say to Rosalie because Rosalie was the hardest vote to win. Then he had looked at them and forgotten all of it. 2 monsters, he said simply, and they all went still. A vampire hunter and a wizard hunter. They are working together. They are not friends. They are using each other. They will betray each other the moment one of them thinks the other is expendable. They do not know yet that we know they are working together. We know because Alice saw it an hour ago. James left a calling card in our school and the wizard left one on my door. They are coordinating their timing. If one comes tonight, both come tonight. Tonight, said Rosalie. Tonight, Harry said. Rodolphus Lestrange does not like a long siege. He is a patient, cruel man, but he is also a proud man, and he has signaled. When he signals, he moves. James is pacing his patience to Lestrange's. He is very good at reading other predators. James came into a school this afternoon because Lestrange nailed a crow to my door this afternoon. The 2 events are one event. How do you know this is tonight? Because Lestrange gave me 3 days yesterday and he gave me 1 day today. The latter is counting down. Could be a bluff. Could be. It is not. Emmett. Why? Because Rodolphus's wife, her name was Bellatrix, would have bluffed. Rodolphus, in my experience of him, does not bluff. He is not creative enough to bluff. He threatens with exactly as much as he will do because he enjoys the precision of delivering it. Fine, tonight, Jasper, quietly, plan. Harry laid both hands on the map. Lestrange will strike in 3 places, he said. He will strike at a place he wants me to be. He will strike at a place he wants our friends to be. He will strike at the place he is actually going. He wants me in the last place. He wants our friends not there. He wants the distraction wide enough that I cannot be in all 3 places. He does not know we have your family. He does not know we have Alice. He does not know that, because of what happened today in the hallway, we know exactly how he thinks. Decoy points, Carlyle said. Yes, the let push line for the decoy. James will attack the wolves. He will attack once, break off, attack again. He will not commit. He will not kill. He will just keep them there. Victoria may go with him. She may come here instead. She is a flanker. She will be used as the flanker. Here, Esme said, eyes sharpening. Here, because if Lestrange is going to make a second decoy, it will be to draw my attention to your family. He wants you as bystanders. He wants you visible. James will have told him what you are. If we are at your house and he attacks your house or sends something against the hospital where Carlyle would go, it's the second decoy. The third is where Bella is. Where Bella is your house, Rosalie said. No, where Bella is where I want him to think Bella is. She will not be at my house tonight. She will be, he hesitated. Alice smiled, already ahead. She will be at the police station. She will be at the station with Charlie. She will be there openly all night. Charlie is the one other person in this town Lestrange would not dare walk into. A police station it is a box Lestrange will not enter. It is not the wards. It is his aesthetic. He does not step into a box he has not chosen. Police stations are a shape he loathes. You want Charlie to, I want Charlie to be told 3 things. I want him to know Bella is in danger. I want him to believe a man with a gun is after her. I want him to have her in the station with him for the night, armed deputies between her and any door. He will do that. He will do it because he is her father, and he has been asking me for an excuse to protect her since Saturday. I will drive Bella to the station at 8, and I will be at my house. My house is going to look to Lestrange as though Bella is in my house. I will set the wards to hum the right hum. I will leave a jacket of hers on a chair. I will have Esme in the house. I will have Edward in the house, Esme at the kitchen window. Edward in the back room by the candle. I need Edward's mind reading. He will tell me exactly at what instant Lestrange commits to the front door, which is when I will come up behind him. You will come up behind him. Yes. With the cloak. Jasper's eyes narrowed. He is a powerful wizard. He is. I am more powerful than he is. I have killed 7 Death Eaters in single combat. He is the 8th. Harry, Carlyle, carefully. I am not challenging you. I am reminding you. Do not let pride put you a step closer than you need to be. Use the distance. Use the cloak. Use the ground. Use the fact that he does not know you have the cloak. He will not have the cloak, only you have that cloak. Yes, and do not, Carlyle said. Fight him on his terms. No, good. Emmett cracked his knuckles. What about me? You are with Jasper at the La Push line. Sam will have his men. You hit James when James breaks off from the wolves. You and Jasper will catch him on the 101 between Sappho and Beaver. You box him. You do not wait for Harry. You make an end of him. Emmett's grin became, for the first time in the meeting, a feral thing. All right, Jasper, Victoria, Alice quietly. Victoria is for me. Rosalie sharp. Alice. She's a flanker, Rose. She's mine. Emmett and Jasper will draw James off. If she peels to go flank, she is going to come for Bella. She does not know Bella is not in the house, so she will come to the house. She will find Edward and me, and her second option after Edward would be the police station. Which means you, Alice said, are at the station with Bella, with Charlie's deputies. Victoria will not come to the station, she will come to the house. But if a newborn she didn't warn us about comes to the station instead, I am there, Rosalie said and smiled very slightly. Yes, I will enjoy that, I know. Does Charlie know I am coming? No. You'll present yourself as a Cullen cousin. Charlie likes Carlyle. You're a pretty cousin. He won't ask. I will be a pretty cousin. Good. Esme last. I am in the kitchen. You are at the kitchen window. You look through the wards. You do not engage unless Lestrange touches my house. If Lestrange touches my house, you drop your glamour and make the loudest sound you have ever made, and the wards will hear and tell me where. Yes, Harry let go of the map. One more thing, he said. Nobody kills Lestrange but me, Harry, Carlyle began, because of the ring on his finger. Harry said, I saw it this afternoon in the photograph Alice took of him in her vision. It is not a normal ring. It is a Death Eater communication ring. If he dies by any hand but mine, it will vanish to a place in England we do not want it to vanish to. I need it to end on his finger. On mine. All right, Emmett, when do we go? Harry looked at the window. The sun was going down through the cedars. The lamp in the corner had a low yellow light in it. Outside in the river, a pair of heron were considering whether to fly north for the night. Alice blinked, her eyes going unfocused for a count of 2, then they came back. 8, Alice said. They come at 8. 8, Harry said. We leave at 7. Bella at 7 did not argue. She stood in her bedroom in a hoodie with her backpack over one shoulder and Charlie's old service revolver. which he had, against departmental guidelines, given her once on her 16th birthday and then taken back, and which she had taken out of the locked drawer in his study while he was in the shower this morning, tucked in the waistband of her jeans. She had been practicing with it, Alice had said in the car on the way over, exactly 4 times in her entire life. It would do. Harry looked at the gun. "Honey, don't. Bella, don't. I'm not going to the station unarmed. I know a shield half works. I have a gun that fully works. I'm going to have both. Charlie will yell at me, and then he'll hug me, and then he'll make me stand behind the desk. That's fine, let's go." They went. The Forks police station at 7 was quiet. Lloyd was on front. Charlie, waiting in his office with a mug of coffee and the lights half down, had been warned by a phone call from Harry an hour earlier that the man from Saturday night was going to try something tonight, and that Bella needed to be in the station behind armed men. Charlie, being Charlie, had asked one question, "Are you coming in too?" Harry had said no. Charlie had said, "Then you tell me the moment it's over," and had hung up. He met them at the door. He hugged Bella. He did not yell about the gun. He saw it. He took it gently out of the back of her waistband and laid it on his desk and said, very quiet, "You don't carry it like that, honey, it'll shoot you in the spine." He reloaded it himself and put it in a holster and clipped the holster to her jeans like a man who had helped his daughter put her first Halloween costume on when she was 4. He looked at Harry over her shoulder. "Go," Charlie said. "Sir, Charlie, go." "Charlie, Alice Cullen's cousin Rosalie is going to come by at 8 to help. She is a friend. She is tall, blonde, and unpleasant, and she will be polite to you." "Fine. She will have I don't care what she'll have. She can have a shotgun. Go." Bella. Bella turned. She came to him. She put her forehead on his chest a second. He put a hand on the back of her head. "Don't die," she said to his shirt. "I'll try not to. No, don't die. I won't. Swear." "I swear on my mother, Bella Swan." "Then go." He went. He drove home with the cloak bundled on the seat beside him and the sun gone out of the sky. The house on the slope was already full of people. Alice, who had disappeared from the police station by the back fence line at 7:15, was upstairs. Esme was in the kitchen, as planned, with 2 of the good windows open a finger's breadth to let air move. Edward was in the back room, sitting cross-legged on the floor next to the candle dish, with his face turned toward the wards in the way Harry had seen Legilimens turn their faces toward voices they could not quite make out. "Anything," Harry said to Edward. "Not yet. There is a pressure 2 miles southwest. It is a mind that does not think the way minds think. A trained mind, a man who has been for a long time an audience to himself. That's him. He knows the shape of a human settlement. He is moving down the creek bed. He is. Edward paused. "Harry, he is laughing." "Yes. Why is he laughing?" "Because he is a proud, cruel man who thinks he is going to win." He is thinking of." "Don't tell me what he is thinking of." "All right. Don't listen to what he is thinking of. Listen to where he is. Listen to when he commits." "Yes." Harry pulled the cloak over his head. Esme, in the kitchen, glanced up at the place he had been standing and saw nothing. She gave him, wherever he was, a small, tight smile she had been practicing for an hour and turned back to the window. Harry walked out the back door without opening it. The back door opened a fraction of an inch. The door Harry did not open. He did not open. He was in the clearing in 5 steps. The ring of stones he had laid in 4 nights in late August was at his feet. The foxgloves in the glass jar dome were asleep. The moon was not up yet. He moved, quiet and invisible, across his own garden and through the cedars and down the rise toward the creek, going not in a straight line but in a patient spiral, the way Kingsley had taught him when he was 20, and had used one for the first time in a ravine in Wales. He caught the first whiff of Rodolphus Lestrange at the bend where a small tributary ran down to the creek. It was an old, dry, slightly sour smell. Like Azkaban, Harry thought, half a lifetime later. Like a man who had not bathed in stone for a year, he kept walking. In his ear, through the inside listening, he felt Alice touch him, not a voice, a presence, a small, electric good luck and withdraw. James attacked La Push at 8:04. He came out of the tree line east of First Beach, moving at the speed a vampire could move when he was enjoying himself, which was a speed that would have torn a human body inside out. He did not go for the houses. He did not go for the children. He went for the patrol, the 3 men Sam Uli had on the tree line as the agreed-upon forward picket, and he went for them not to kill but to provoke. He broke a kneecap. He cracked a jaw. He threw a wolf into a tree, hard enough to hurt, not hard enough to kill. He broke off. Sam in Wolf roared. The pack came. James, delighted, led them up the 101 towards Sappho in the shape of a laughing man running backwards. Paul and Jared were on him. Jacob was a lope behind, bigger than either, more patient, already thinking like Sam. Sam was up the ridge, paralleling in case James peeled. Embry and Seth held La Push because somebody had to. At a point between Beaver and Sappho, on a stretch of road that was pine on one side and steep embankment on the other, James came around a corner and met Emmett Cullen in the middle of the asphalt. Emmett had his arms spread and a grin like the top half of a steel trap. James turned to go sideways into the forest. Jasper was in the forest. James went up the embankment. Sam, in Wolf, was at the top of the embankment. "All right," James said aloud to nobody pleasantly. "All right, now this is a fight." He was fast and he was clever, and he was, in the first 90 seconds of the engagement, very nearly a match for the 3 of them. He tore a strip off Emmett's forearm. He cracked Sam's ribs. He threw Jasper into a dead pine and broke the pine. He was turning to try Emmett again when Emmett, grinning bloody, hit him once in the throat with a closed fist that had the weight of every Cullen who had ever picked him up from a brawl and made him stop, and James's head came off. He was burning before he had stopped moving. Jasper was already piling the wood for the fire. Emmett picked up the head and threw it in. The smell of burning vampire, which was a little like burning sugar, came up through the pines. Sam, in Wolf, sat on his haunches in the road and watched until the fire had eaten the parts of James that mattered, and then he rose, shook himself, and ran back down the 101 to his brothers. Emmett and Jasper stayed by the fire to be sure. Emmett, looking at Jasper over the smoke, said, "That was fast." Harry called it. He called it right. Is he? Alice would have screamed. She hasn't screamed. Right. Rodolphus Lestrange came to the edge of Harry's garden at 8:11. He was exactly as Alice had described him, a long coat, white hair cropped close. A lean, straight carriage, a wand in his right hand, a dark curved wand of oak or yew that Harry recognized as the kind of cheap but serviceable wand Death Eaters had switched to after their original wands had been confiscated by the Ministry. He looked up at the kitchen window. He saw Esme. He did not, at first, realize she was a vampire. He thought she was Bella Swan's mother. He smiled. He raised his wand. "Avada," Harry said very quietly from 3 feet behind him and a foot to the left. "Expelliarmus." Rodolphus Lestrange's wand flew straight out of his hand and into Harry's. Lestrange whirled. He did not see anyone. Harry pulled the cloak off his shoulders, a slow, deliberate motion, enjoyed, and let it pool in one hand. "Hello, Rodolphus." Lestrange's face, in the yellow light from the kitchen window, went still and cold and finally interested. "Potter?" "Yes." "You came?" "Yes. That is a stupid. It is." He did not wait. Lestrange had a second wand in a holster at his left wrist. Of course he did. And it came out of the holster in one lightning motion at exactly the instant his right hand had come up empty, and the curse that left it was a dark green curse Harry had seen first in a cemetery when he was 14. Harry did not block it. He stepped. The curse passed through the space where his head had been with a smell like burnt copper. He threw back, stupefy. Lestrange batted it with a lazy wrist. Confringo, blocked. Petrificus totalis, blocked barely. They moved. They moved over the stones and across the foxgloves in the glass jar dome and into the cedars. They moved at the speed of a duel that had been rehearsed by each of them against the other for 11 months. Lestrange had been in Azkaban for 8 years before he had escaped it, and he had been the kind of man who had taught himself to duel against his own reflection. Harry had been in the field for 3 years and had faced, in that time, an assortment of specialists under conditions that would have broken lesser men. They were, more or less, evenly matched, except for 2 things. The first thing was the cloak. Lestrange was not sure from second to second where Harry was. Harry did not need to be invisible to win, but the shadow of it, the flicker of not being sure exactly where the other wand was, made Lestrange half a breath slow. The second thing was the ring on Harry's finger. The stone on his finger had not gone cold once since Saturday. It was at this moment in the cedars, warmer than it had been. It was telling him, in the way it had been telling him for 3 years without his admitting it. He is here with you, he is here with you, a man you loved is with you, and at the edge of Harry's vision on his left. Walking among the trees parallel to him in the same long loose stride Harry had used to imitate when he was 13, the faint, kind shape of his godfather. Use the ground, pup, said the shadow on his left. Use the ground, not the air. He is tall, he does not like low. Harry dropped flat to his belly and rolled. Lestrange's next curse went over his back by a hand. Harry, from the ground, threw one at Lestrange's ankles, a low, clean, binding curse not meant to kill but to tangle, and it caught. Lestrange's feet locked together mid-stride. He went down. He threw a curse from the ground at Harry as he fell. Harry blocked it with a flick. Lestrange, on his back in the leaves, tried a wandless apparition. The wards around Harry's property, which had been set up 4 days before for exactly this contingency, did not allow him to apparate out. Lestrange hit the wards like a man hitting a plate of glass, incarcerous. Ropes of living silver light, thick as a man's thumb, coiled out of Harry's wand and wound around Lestrange's body, torso, arms, wand hand, throat. Harry was on his feet. He crossed the distance between them at the board, careful pace of a man who had finished. Rodolphus. Lestrange bared his teeth. Potter. The ring. What? The ring on your hand? Give me the ring, you. Lestrange laughed. It was a laugh Harry had last heard in a courtroom 9 years ago, coming out of the mouth of his wife. You take it off me, you take it off a dead man. I would rather take it off a living one. You would rather, I killed your godfather's cousin, I ate your godfather's house. I was the first man to put my hand on her neck when she came for you. You would rather? Yes. You are weak. Perhaps. Harry crouched. He took Lestrange's bound hand. He slipped the black ring off the finger with some small resistance, but it came. He put it in the pocket of his coat. He stood. Rodolphus Lestrange, he said, mild and formal, the way an orar said a thing when a thing had been said. You are under arrest. You will be remanded to British custody by portkey at sunrise. Any charge against you by the British ministry will be prosecuted in British courts. Any charge against you by the Quileute nation will be mediated by those courts on their behalf. Your wands are my property for the duration. The portkey is in my left-hand coat pocket. It will take you in 5 hours. I will sit with you until it does. Lestrange went quiet. Then he said, very soft, that is not what you are supposed to do. No, you are supposed to kill me. No, kill me, Potter. No. Harry sat down about 10 feet from the man on the ground, wand across his knees, and waited. Lestrange, for an hour, tried to goad him. Harry did not listen. At 10, Lestrange stopped talking. At 10:40, Edward, who had left the candle dish at 9 when the duel ended and had followed Harry at a distance, because Edward did not leave a man fighting his war alone, even when he was told to, stepped out of the trees and sat on a log beside Harry and did not speak. At midnight, Jasper came up from the 101 and reported. Carlyle came at 1:30 with a small medical bag for the rope burns around Lestrange's neck, which Carlyle dressed with the same impartial care he had dressed 100 kinder men's wounds, and Lestrange, who had fully expected torture, said nothing to him. At 4, Alice apparated in because, as it turned out, Alice could now apparate because Alice had watched Harry do it 8 times in 3 days and had simply done it in her head. Sundown, Alice said. Sunrise, Harry corrected. Sorry, sunrise. At 5:40, the sky through the cedars turned gray. At 6, Harry took a small silver coin out of his pocket, touched it to Lestrange's shoulder, spoke a single word, and Lestrange vanished. The portkey had been arranged by Hermione a long time ago, the way Hermione arranged things, because Hermione had, from her desk in the Ministry of Magic in London, spent the last 6 months quietly rebuilding the department tasked with recapturing the last 3 Death Eaters still at large. The portkey was keyed to an arrival chamber in the Department of Magical Law Enforcement, with 4 aurors and a Mediwitch waiting at all times. Hermione had sent Harry 3 of them for his birthday, because Hermione was a romantic. Harry had kept them in a small wooden box under his bed. This had been the first one he had used. He sat a long time in the small, cold, gray morning. Edward sat with him. Carlyle, at some point in the hour, had left. Alice, at some point in the hour, had gone to check on Bella. Jasper, at some point in the hour, had gone to find Victoria. At 6:30, Alice came back. She sat next to Harry on the log and put her small, cold hand on his wrist. "Bella is safe," she said. "Charlie is asleep in his office. Rosalie is finishing her coffee. Good. Victoria is gone, not destroyed, escaped." Jasper tracked her as far as the Canadian border. "She went north. She is not going to stop. She will not come back for a little while. She will come back. I saw her eyes at the border." "Good enough." "Harry, I need to sleep." Sleep. He did not sleep, not yet. He walked down to the creek and washed his hands 3 times in the cold, running water until his knuckles were numb. He took the black ring out of his coat pocket and looked at it a long second, then wrapped it in a kerchief and put it back. Then he walked up to his house. He let Esme out, who hugged him without saying a word. He let Edward out, who nodded at him in the drive and did not speak. He shut the door behind them. He went upstairs. He slept 21 hours. Chapter 8 and Chapter 9. Red eyes from Italy. On the 4th morning after the fire in the Cedars, 3 black cars pulled up Harry's drive and parked in a neat row. He had not needed Alice to tell him they were coming. The Wards had hummed at 3 in the afternoon the day before, a low, unfamiliar hum, the one reserved for visitors who had not been seen in this part of the world in 600 years. And by the time he had lifted the kettle off the hob, he had known who was in the cars. Alice had called a minute later anyway because Alice believed in courtesies. 3, Alice said. "I thought at first 4, it is 3, Demetri, Felix, Jane. Yes, Jane has not been sent to collect a wizard before. Jane has not been sent before, Jane has been asked." Arrow is in his own way being polite. For Arrow, yes. What does Arrow want? To see if he can put you in his pocket, or failing that, to see if he can be sure you will never be in anybody else's, or failing that, she paused delicately, to see how difficult it would be to arrange for you to be nowhere at all. Pick the first. I think he picks the first. "I will pick neither. I know. I will have tea ready. Good. I'll come over. Don't. I will meet them alone. Harry, alone. Have Carlyle on the porch. He stays on the porch. He is insurance. I don't want to begin a conversation with 5 of them in my living room. I want 1 number, 1 answer, 1 refusal. All right, Alice. Yes, tell Bella to stay at her father's today. I will." They arrived in black wool. 3 cars, 3 drivers who did not get out of the cars, 3 passengers who did. Felix first, huge, shoulders like a door, a face that was carved and patient. Demetri second, tall and lean, chestnut-haired, the bland, pleasant face of a professional diplomat. Jane last, and Jane was, as everyone who had ever seen Jane had said, a very small girl with the still eyes of a 50-pound weight dropped from a great height. Harry opened the front door. He had the teapot in his left hand. His right hand was empty. His wand was in his left sleeve. The cloak was around his shoulders in plain view, folded back like a traveling cape because he wanted Jane to see it and fail to know what it was. "Good morning." "Good morning, Mr. Potter. Please, come in." They came in. The living room was the living room. Fire lit, lamps on, the watercolor on the wall, the small photograph of his mother on the mantel. He had moved the watercolor an inch to the left that morning because the watercolor was a tell. A small hanging painting was a small mirror, and he wanted it where he could see it without looking at it. He set the teapot on the low table between the couch and the 2 armchairs. He gestured. "Please, sit." Jane did not sit at first. She looked at him. Demetri sat like a statesman. Felix leaned against the wall by the door like a bodyguard. Harry poured 3 cups. None of them would drink. The cups sat on the low table and gave off a polite and pointed steam. He sat in the armchair across from Jane, who still did not sit. The teapot went back on the tray. "Arrow," Demetri began, opening smoothly, "sends his compliments." "Don't." "His compliments and his interest." "Demetri," Harry said politely, "you may skip the opening. You will not be delivering a speech. Go to the point." Demetri blinked once. It was, on that bland face, a considerable expression. "As you wish. Thank you. My master invites you to Volturi. He would like to meet a wizard who has, in 1 week, ended the career of a long-standing nomad and collected a Death Eater into the custody of your ministry. He would like to meet the young man who has, in his words, Demetri smiled, because Arrow's words were Arrow's words. Made himself interesting. I am not interesting, my master disagrees. I know. My master would like you to be his guest for a week. You would be treated with every courtesy. You would meet his wives and his advisors. You would— No, Mr. Potter, no, I do not go to Volturi. Neither this week nor next, neither this year nor next. You would refuse an invitation. An invitation, yes. It was not phrased as a command. I know, it would have been a command if I had been unknown. It is an invitation because I am not. Demetri was quiet. Felix by the door was not moving. Jane, who had still not sat, who had still not moved, put with great care her eyes on Harry's face. Jane, Harry said without looking at her, Mr. Potter, you are about to try, I am about to— Don't. You don't know what I do. You cause pain without touching, at a distance with your mind. You have done it to vampires and to humans. You have done it to witches. I know of 3 witches you have done it to. All 3 of them were afterward either very silent or very dead. You have not done it to a wizard. I am the first. Yes, I would rather you didn't, Mr. Potter, but I can see you would very much like to. Very. Then do. Demetri, for the first time, spoke out of turn. Jane, Harry, mild, let her Demetri. If she does not try, she will not know. If she does not know, none of us will know, and Arrow will ask her when she gets home, and she will not know what to say, and I will be on Arrow's mind forever. Better to find out. Jane smiled. It was the smile of a very small girl who had been told at last that she could have the cake. She tried. Harry, who had been expecting it, let it land. He let it land because he wanted to know himself what she felt like when she tried. He had been, until this morning, a man about whose magic the Volturi had nothing to say. He wanted to go on being that man. He felt her try. He felt her reach. He felt the small, sharp fishhook of her attention scrabble against the thing that occlumency had become in him after 7 years of practice. She scrabbled at it for 2 long seconds. She scrabbled at it, and she could not find a purchase because there was no purchase, because the part of his mind that took pain was not a place she could see, because his pain, very old and very organized, was kept in a house of his own building, and the keys had been distributed to a very few friends who had earned them over a decade. She let up. She tried again. Nothing. She tried, for the first time in her century, with her mouth opening a fraction because she was beginning to use the animal parts of her breathing, and again she hit nothing. She found no pain. Not because Harry had no pain, he had mountains of it. She simply could not touch it. He smiled politely. You can stop now, Mr. Potter. Jane, you can stop. Stop. She stopped. For a second, a small human, stubborn, confused second, her face was, Harry realized, a child's face. A child who had been told to perform at a party and had, for the first time in her life, not been able to. Then the stone mask came back, Demetri, very gently. That is a— Yes. We will tell Arrow. Please do. He will. I know what he will. Tell him this before you go. Tell him I will not come to Italy. Tell him I will not tolerate any envoy from his city in Forks past you. Tell him the Cullens are my friends and the humans of this town are my friends. Tell him if he lays a hand on any of them, he will find the Ministry of Magic on his doorstep with the Oracle he has, in his long and patient life, not ever wanted to meet on his doorstep. Tell him I have no interest in his affairs. Tell him to have no interest in mine. Tell him. He paused because he had debated this in his head all night. Tell him I will send him a letter every solstice and equinox describing in 3 sentences the state of the county of Forks, Washington, and the health of its notable inhabitants. 4 letters a year. That is the courtesy. That is the bargain. He may keep it. I will keep it. 4 letters, Demetri, after a moment. My master will be charmed. I know. He will make a show of being charmed, and then he will be charmed. I know. You have a gift for this sort of— I was trained. Yes. Felix, by the door, cleared his throat, not to say a thing, just to be heard. Felix, Harry had been told, did not speak in the field. Felix, on rare occasions, made a throat-clearing sound that was his entire contribution to diplomacy. Everybody in the Volturi knew the sound. It meant that when, as well as it could go, Jane stood up finally, she had not sat down. Mr. Potter, she said, quiet. Jane. I would like to come back in 50 years, make it 100. 75, 90, 80, 80, agreed. We will have tea then, we will have tea. She turned and walked out and got in her car. Felix followed. Demetri bowed with unexpected sincerity and was last. The three cars reversed down the drive and pulled onto the 101 in a neat and elegant line and went south. The wards, as they crossed the perimeter, hummed a small and deliberate hum of relief. Harry sat down on the couch. His hands, he noted with clinical interest, were shaking. Carlisle Cullen, who had indeed been on the porch for the length of the visit, came in at last. He sat in the armchair Demetri had vacated. He did not say anything for a while. Harry, I know. Jane could not. No, you are the first person she has ever, I know. That will not go down well, I know. Arrow will weigh and measure and decide. He will take the letters. He will make a show of it. He will also begin to plan around me carefully the way he plans around Alice. He will be a patient enemy. Yes, well, Carlisle, after a moment, there is something else. Harry looked at him. Alice had a vision this morning, Carlisle said. She asked me to wait until after your guests left. She did not want them to hear the shape of it in my head. She asked me to tell you when they were gone. Tell me. There is a woman in Seattle, red hair. She has been making newborn vampires since 5 nights ago. Carefully and quickly and not as carefully as she imagines. 20 now, she will have 30 by Friday, Victoria. Yes, she is going to come. Yes, she will come Friday night. She will bring the newborns. She will not ride with them. She will send them ahead in a wave. They will come through Forks to get to Bella and you. Well, yes, all right, all right, all right. This, Harry said, is a fight I know how to have. The nuisance of James taught me what I needed. The nuisance of Lestrange trained you. Alice knows the hour. The pack is mobilized. Your family is rested. My wards are up. Bella, if she will, can do a shield. We are more ready now than we were a week ago. Carlisle watched him a moment. Harry, yes, you should eat. Yes, I will cook. Esme has been teaching me. Carlisle, eat, son. Friday evening, Harry came to the Cullen house at 6. Bella was already there. Charlie was not. Charlie had been told by Bella, who had taken his hand at the kitchen table an hour before and had told him 7 true things and 2 lies, that she was spending the night at the Cullens with Alice and Alice's cousins, because tonight was a bad night for Harry Potter, and she was going to be safer under a roof with 5 adults than in a house with one armed father. Charlie, who had spent the intervening week being strenuously polite to Alice, and who had come to the quiet conclusion that Alice was the most trustworthy person he had ever met who was not a cop, had allowed it. He had also, because Charlie had spent the week deciding in his own slow tectonic way that whatever Harry Potter was, he was going to stand beside him, taken the evening shift at the station himself. Charlie did not know about the newborns. Charlie did not need to. Bella hugged Harry when he came in the door. She did not let go for a long time. When she did, her eyes were very clear. Where am I? She asked, with Alice in the kitchen, behind a disillusionment. You are going to stand in the doorway and watch. You are going to hold the shield you can hold. If something gets to the porch, you will shield. If it doesn't, you will not need to. Esme is with you. Rosalie will rejoin you the moment the first wave breaks. And you, I am in the clearing behind the house. Jasper and Emmett with me, Edward up the ridge, Carlisle at the river. The pack comes in at the road, cutting the newborns off from the rear. And Victoria, he looked at her, Victoria is mine. Harry, she is going to come last. She is going to come when she thinks it is clear. She is a flanker. I will be ready for her. I want to come. No, Harry. No, Bella, not because I don't think you would be brave, because I don't want to be thinking about you in the middle of it. If I am thinking about you, I will make a small mistake, and a small mistake against a newborn is a big mistake. You know this. I know you know. Come back. Yes. Swear. I swore on Wednesday. Swear again. I swear. She nodded, set her jaw, and kissed him briefly on the mouth in front of the Cullens, who either did not look or pretended not to. Alice, who did look, smiled. The newborns came up the river in a front of 23. They came at 8. The sun had gone down 40 minutes earlier. The cedars were black against a sky the color of wet slate. The river, where Carlisle stood, held a single long gray reflection that did not move. When the first newborn broke from the tree line across the river, running on all fours because she did not yet fully know she had a human shape, Carlyle put a hand on her chest as she came out of the water and, with the careful, unplayful force of a 100-year physician, broke her neck. He set her down. He waited for the next. The next came in a pack of 4. Carlyle moved once fast. 1, 2, 3. The fourth got around him and made it into the underbrush. Jasper, up the bank, picked it off in mid-stride. By the time the main wave hit the clearing, most of the pack had come through the trees behind Harry. Sam, in wolf, tore into the back of a male newborn the size of a linebacker. Paul and Jared took a pair of females in the middle of a roar. Jacob, huge, moved like a tank. He shouldered a young newborn into a cedar hard enough that the cedar split. Embry flanked. Seth, last, stayed low, biting ankles. He was young, and nobody faulted him for staying low. Emmett, in the middle of the clearing, was laughing. He was laughing with his teeth out. He had been, for 100 years, a man who looked for a fight equal to him and not found one. 20 newborns at once was not equal to him exactly, but it was the closest he had come, and he was enjoying himself. Jasper was beside him, surgical, quiet, moving from one newborn to the next with the small, precise decisions of a man who had taught himself to end a thing in one motion and never needed two. Harry stood at the center of the stones he had laid on the night he had first warded the yard. He did not move first. He moved when the knot thickened. A blast curse, low and wide, to take out 3 newborns who had come through the gap between Emmett and Jasper. A binding curse on a 4th who had tried to peel around his left flank. A chain lightning he had only ever used once before, on a cave full of inferi in Devon, which cut 2 newborns in half at the waist and set their legs on fire. Edward, up the ridge, took 3 with his own hands. Edward, whom Harry had underestimated at first, was in fact a very good hand-to-hand fighter when he put his mind to it, which he had, because somewhere in the living room of the Cullen house a week before, he had decided he was not going to be the weak link. In the kitchen, at the door, Bella held a shield. She held it in the moment a newborn female broke through the line and made it to the porch and threw herself at the open kitchen door with a speed no human had ever seen. And Bella, without flinching, with her palm up the way Harry had shown her in September, said, "Quiet, pratigo." And the newborn hit a half-shield 2 feet from Bella's body and skidded sideways across the porch into the arms of Rosalie Cullen, who had come up from the north side of the house at the precise second Alice had told her to, and who tore the newborn apart in one long, smooth motion a butcher would have admired. "That," Rosalie said to Bella, wiping ash off her hands on the kitchen towel Esme had set out for her, "was not bad. Thank you. I mean yours, the shield. Thank you. Do it again." A second newborn was coming around the house. Bella held the shield. Victoria came last. Harry felt her before he saw her, a red, sharp presence at the edge of the cedars, flanking, as Alice had said she would. She had watched for 20 minutes from the tree line on the far side of the river. She had waited for the newborns to tire her targets. She had, at the exact moment the last newborn in the clearing had stopped moving, taken 3 steps out of the cedars and begun to move like a knife. She was fast. She was faster than James. She was angry, and grief, which Harry understood better than he wanted to, had sharpened her into a thing that was not, anymore, planning to survive the night. She came for Harry. She did not go for Bella. She did not go for Edward. She did not even go for Emmett, who was closest to her when she broke from the cedars. She came for Harry, and she came at an angle that would have put her teeth through the side of his throat before he had registered her. She did not get there. She did not get there because a thing nobody in the clearing had ever seen happened. A small, warm, amateur wave of something hit her from the direction of the kitchen, hit her in the chest, and knocked her off her line by a full 3 feet. Bella, in the open kitchen door, had not said a word. Her hands were up. Her face had gone white, then red. Her eyes were huge. She did not, in fact, know what she had just done. But she had, in the moment Victoria had come out of the cedars, felt a thing in her chest she had never felt before, a thing like the pine needle standing up on her palm, a thing like the shield holding the pebble a half-second off her skin. And she had, without choosing to, flung it. It had been small and sloppy and untrained. It had been enough to knock a running vampire sideways 3 feet for 1/10 of a second, which was, to a duelist as prepared as Harry Potter had been for 5 minutes, a long, long moment. Harry's wand was up. He did not throw the green curse he had sworn he would not throw in any of the shapes he was capable of. He had been thinking about it all week. He had decided against it. He threw, instead, a compound spell Kingsley had taught him for the end of another duel, a concussive and a fire braided aimed at the torso. Victoria took it full. She burned. She did not burn gracefully. She fought the fire. She rolled in the wet grass. She screamed a sound that Harry would remember for the rest of his life. Jasper came across the clearing and put a knee on her shoulder and a hand on her face, and in one compact motion did the work. For a long minute afterward, nobody spoke. The fire ate. The smell, burning vampire like burning sugar, but older and redder, rose into the cedars and went away on the wind. Harry turned. Bella in the kitchen door stood with her hands out. She was staring at them. Her palms were trembling. Her eyes, when she looked up at Harry across the porch, were 2 gray moons. "Harry," she said, I felt it this time. I know, I did that. Yes, it was, I know." He crossed the clearing. He came up onto the porch. He did not touch her because her hands were still out, and she was still holding the shape of the thing she had done in her palms like a living bird she did not yet know how to set down. Alice, behind her, was smiling, a small, contained, proud smile, the smile of an ant. Esme was crying. Rosalie on the porch steps was watching Bella the way a surgeon watches a patient's color come back. Bella Swan. "Yes, you have a spark." I don't. You have a spark. You have always had a spark. It has always been there. It has always been quiet. It has in the last month been listening. Tonight it spoke. "You did the thing you are. It will be easier now." "I don't. How do I?" "You will learn. Harry, you will learn, slowly, with me, with other people, later. Tonight you don't have to do anything else. Tonight you put your hands down." She put her hands down. She sank to her knees on the porch. He sat down beside her. She put her face against his shoulder and she did not cry, but her body shook, which was, in his experience, what happened to people the first time they found out a door they had not known had opened into a room they had not known existed. Behind them, in the clearing, the last fire burned down. Carlyle came up the path at last, his shirt damp to the elbow, his hair in his eyes. He saw Bella on the porch. He did not ask. He crossed to the kitchen door and stood over them both and for a while said nothing. Then he said, soft. "It is done, is it?" said Esme behind him. "The main body, 23 on the ground, Victoria. The pack is well, 3 wounds, none bad. Emmett is in one piece. Edward is in one piece. And Charlie," Harry said, quiet. "Charlie is at the station. Charlie is fine. Alice called him 15 minutes ago. Alice told him we had made the decision to stay with Bella tonight at the Cullen house for her safety and that Alice's cousins were going to drive her home in the morning." Charlie said. Carlyle's mouth twitched. All right, Harry said. "All right," Bella against his shoulder said without lifting her head. "Do you feel?" "Yes. When you first did it, did you?" "I was 11. Did you know?" "I knew something. I didn't know the word." "When did you know the word?" "A year later. The word came. The word always comes." "Okay." "Okay, Harry?" "Yes. Is this my life now?" He lifted her chin gently so she could see his eyes. The moon had come up over the cedars. Her face in that silver was a face he was going to remember forever. "This is not your life," Harry said. "This is a door. You have come up to it and you have found it opens. You may decide tomorrow to go through it. You may decide tomorrow to close it and never open it again. Nobody is going to push you, not me, not the Cullens, not the ministry, not Hermione when she comes, and she will come. Your life will still be your life. You will still go to school and you will still do your biology homework and you will still have dinner with your father on Tuesdays and Thursdays. But you will know a thing, that is all. Okay, Harry, yes, thank you. You would have done it without me." "No, I wouldn't have. Maybe not this week. Maybe not this decade." "All right," Harry said. "All right." He stood her up. She stood. He walked her slowly back into the kitchen, where Esme had already set out bread and the strange, excellent tea she had invented in the last week, and the two of them sat at the table together for an hour, saying almost nothing. Watching the last of the fires go down in the clearing through the open door. Chapter 9 and Chapter 10. A door, not an ending. The repair of the clearing behind Harry's house took 4 days. He did most of it himself because he wanted to. On Saturday morning, he broke down what remained of the bonfire Jasper had built, raked the ash into a wheelbarrow, and took the wheelbarrow down to the creek, where he tipped the ash into the running water. The creek took it without comment. He spent the afternoon resetting the stones. Emmett came by at 3, because Emmett had decided over the course of a week that Harry was the closest thing he had to a younger brother, and worked beside him in silence for 2 hours lifting stones that a human would not have been able to lift. They did not speak. They had said what they had needed to say on a highway in the dark 2 nights before. At 5, Emmett nodded, clapped him on the shoulder with the same closed half-second of a book read he had used the first time, and drove home. On Sunday, Harry cleared the broken glass out of the glass jar dome and regrew the foxgloves that had been trampled in the battle. On Monday, he replanted the witch hazel. On Tuesday, he sat in his kitchen and wrote a letter to the British ministry on ministry parchment, sealed it with the cold iron seal he had been issued at 20, and did not send it. He set the letter on the mantel. He would send it later. The ministry did not need to know about forks yet. He would write them a version of the truth he had rehearsed over the weekend, later. On Wednesday, Charlie came to the house. He came up the drive in his cruiser at 5 in the afternoon, wearing civilian clothes, a denim shirt and a brown jacket and boots, and carrying a 6-pack of the beer he had favored the night Harry had first come to dinner. He got out of the cruiser slowly. He looked at the house for a long moment, then he came up the steps, knocked, and waited. Harry opened the door. "Charlie?" "Harry, come in." "Don't mind if I do." He came in. He set the beer on the kitchen counter. He looked at the watercolor on the living room wall and at the photograph of Harry's mother on the mantel, and at the sealed letter Harry had not yet sent with its cold iron seal still unbroken. He looked at Harry. "Your kitchen's clean," he said. "Thank you." "You want to tell me what happened last Friday night?" "Yes, sir, Charlie." Harry poured 2 glasses of water because water was the correct drink for this conversation. He sat down at the table and Charlie sat opposite him. The kitchen light was soft. The clock on the wall ticked slowly. "There are vampires," Harry said. Charlie blinked once. He did not stand up. He did not laugh. He did not reach for his gun, which was in his belt but which he had already decided on the way over he was not going to touch in this house this afternoon. "Okay, I am a wizard. I do magic. There is a whole other society alongside yours, which has been hidden from yours for about 300 years and from individual people in yours for much longer. I was born into it. I came here because I was tired of it. I found out about the vampires when I got here." "There are vampires in Forks." "Yes, the Cullens." Charlie nodded slowly. I'd noticed. They don't age, I noticed that. "Yes, they eat deer." "Yes, I noticed that too." "Yes, okay. Last Friday a woman named Victoria came to kill your daughter. She had about 20 new vampires with her. She was doing it because I had, 2 nights earlier, killed the man who was her partner, James, who had come to kill your daughter first. I killed him." He paused. "I didn't actually. Emmett and Jasper killed him with wolves." "With wolves?" "The Quileute wolves." "The Quileute wolves are real?" "Yes, I always wondered." "Yes, okay. Last Friday at your house, your daughter was at the Cullens because we were expecting Victoria. Victoria came. There was a fight. Your daughter," he looked up, "your daughter did magic. She has a spark. She has always had a spark. I did not cause it. I noticed it. It is hers. She knows this now. She is going to want to tell you." "She already did." Harry looked up. "She came to me at lunch today," Charlie said quietly. "She sat down with a sandwich and she said, 'Dad, I need to tell you something,' and she did. She told me the outline. She didn't tell me vampires. She told me wizards. She told me her. She told me you. She didn't tell me what you had killed. She told me what she had done." I appreciate the fact that you came over to fill in the blanks, Harry, I do. She told me what she felt I needed to know. The rest of it I figured I'd ask you." "All right. Is it over?" "Mostly. There will be more, there will be smaller things for years, but the big ones we have had. There is an Italian group who may or may not become a problem in my lifetime. They will not bother us this decade. I have arranged a truce. You have arranged a truce? Yes, with an Italian group of vampires. Yes, Harry, yes, you're 21. I am 21. How old were you when your mother died? A year. How old were you when your godfather died? 15. How many people have you killed? Harry thought about it. Personally, he said, between ages 15 and 21, 11. Many of them were not people exactly, but they had been once. One of them, the last one, I did not regret. Three of them I think about most nights. Charlie looked at him a long moment. Harry, yes. You are going to eat dinner at my house on Wednesdays. You are going to fish with me on Sundays. Sometimes we won't catch anything. You are going to let an old man who has never caught an Italian vampire in his life talk to you about things he knows, which are bluegrass and fishing and how to change a transmission. You are going to do this because you are my daughter's friend, and because my daughter has decided about you, and because you are 21 and have killed 11 people and need an old man in your life. You understand me? Yes, sir. Charlie? Yes, Charlie. All right. Charlie stood. He picked up the beer off the counter. He set it back down. He thought a moment. Then he took one out and opened it with the edge of the table, the old cop trick that does not damage the table because you know how to do it, and pressed it into Harry's hand. Welcome to Forks, Harry Potter, he said. Thank you, Charlie. Charlie drove home. Edward came by Friday evening. He came alone, on foot, walking up the drive the way a person walked when he wanted to be seen coming. Harry, who had been watching the trees from the porch with a book on his knee he was not reading, rose and put the book down and met him halfway up the steps. Edward looked older, which was absurd in a man who did not age. He looked, Harry thought, like a man a week into a decision that had begun to settle. May I sit? Please. They sat. The cedars breathed. A crow high up laughed. I came to apologize. You don't owe me an apology. I do. Edward, I do, Harry. Permit me. I have prepared it. It is short. Go on. I came home to Forks expecting a fate. I expected, on the drive down from Denali, to meet a young woman who was going to be, for reasons older than either of us, mine. I met her. I met her with you. I behaved in our first hour like a boy who had been told a story about himself for too long. I see that now. I did not see it then. I am ashamed of it. I have been ashamed of it since last Friday in the clearing when I watched her hold a shield. I would like to do better. I am going to do better. I wanted to say so to your face. Harry was quiet a moment. Thank you, he said. That is it. Thank you. I have nothing else. Edward, yes, she is not yours. I know. She is not mine either. I know. She is herself. I know. She has decided for now that she would like to spend some portion of her time in my company. She has said nothing about the long run. She is 17, I am 21. We will see. I see. Are you? Am I what? Will you be all right? Edward looked out at the cedars. His pale hand on the arm of the chair, an old oak chair Harry had found in the attic when he moved in, curled once and released. I will be, he said, better than I was. I have been, for 100 years, a man waiting for a thing he thought would complete him. I am going to put that down. I have a brother who is very good at hand-to-hand. I am going to ask him to teach me. I have a father who is very good at medicine. I am going to read what he reads. I am going to be, for a while, a man learning to live in a century he finds himself in. That will have to do. It's a lot. It's a start. It is, Harry. Yes. If you and she, if there comes a day when you and she marry, I would like to stand at the edge of the crowd. I would not ask to speak. I would stand and be quiet. I would like her to know I am there, not as a claim, but as I would like her to know she is allowed as many friends as she wants, and that I am one of them, and that I would not, ever, try to be more. Harry looked at him. All right, he said. Thank you. Edward? Yes. If you hurt her, I won't. If you do, you don't have to finish, Harry. All right. Edward stood. He looked down at Harry a long moment, then he put out a hand. Harry took it. Edward's hand, cold and careful, did not linger. He let it go and walked down the steps and down the drive, not fast, not slow, the way a man walked when he was going home. At the top of the drive, he paused. He turned back. Harry, he called. Yes, one more thing. Yes, you are. Edward hesitated. You are what I thought I was going to be before, when I had a heart. Edward, I am glad the world has one of you, is what I mean. Thank you. All right. Good evening, he went. Harry sat on the porch a while after that, book unread on his knee, watching the sky go pink over the cedars. Saturday, he met Jacob at First Beach at noon. The tide was in. The beach was narrow, hard sand and driftwood. Jacob was sitting on a long, pale log, his long legs stretched out, a thermos of something between his knees, a pair of gulls considering him at a distance. He looked, in the weak winter sun, younger than he had looked the last time Harry had seen him, and larger. Harry sat on the log beside him. Jacob held out the thermos. Harry took a sip. Cocoa, very hot. He handed it back. "You alive," Jacob said, more or less. "Emmett pulled a tree up by the roots last Friday, I heard. Sam dropped a newborn on his hips and it cracked him like a knee joint. Cracked, I heard." "You did a chain lightning?" "I did." "Is that's in books?" "It's in 2 books, neither of which I've read. I made it up in a field in Sussex in the summer I was 19. I told Kingsley about it later. He wrote one of the books." They watched the gulls. The gulls watched them. "Bells tells me," Jacob said, "she did something last Friday too." "She did. She's not." "She's not what?" "Not going to turn into anything." "She's not going to turn into anything, Jacob." "Yeah. She's going to be a person who is good at throwing things at vampires." "Which she was already going to be. She's just going to be better at it." Jacob laughed. It was a real laugh. It was the first big laugh Harry had heard out of him. "Harry?" "Yes. Billy says to tell you he is glad you are still here." "Tell Billy I am glad too." "Billy says to tell you he will expect you for dinner in 3 Saturdays. Tell him I will come. Billy says to tell you not to bring pie. Tell Billy I have learned. I will bring wine. Billy says to tell you he does not drink wine. Tell him the wine is for you." Jacob looked at him. "He'll like that," Jacob said. "I thought he might." "Harry?" "Yes. You're not what I thought. No one is." "Yeah, no one is." They sat a while. Jacob, after a time, said quieter into the thermos he had set between his knees, "Bells and I, tell me. We're friends and I want to keep being friends with her. I had something going in my head before you showed up. Nobody but me. I thought on some summer there would be a me and her. I was 16. I was making up a life. When I saw you with her in the hallway at your house in September, I had to decide not to be mad about something I had made up. I just want you to know I did that. I did that on my own. I'm good. Thank you for telling me. Yeah, I mean it." "Yeah, Jacob, don't get weird." "I wasn't going to. You were about to." "I wasn't. You were." "All right. I was going to say that I think you are going to be someone important to her for the rest of her life, and I am not going to be in the way of that." "See, you got weird. Sorry. Let's just sit." They sat. The gulls went away. The tide, which had been in, began to think about going out. A canoe went by 100 yards offshore with a man in a blue jacket who raised a hand at Jacob as he passed. Jacob raised his back. After an hour, Jacob stood. "See you Saturday after next," he said. "See you. Tell Bella I said hi." "I will." On Sunday at sunset, an owl came. It was a great gray, which was not an owl one often saw in the lower 48 at any time of the year. It was a muggle rarity, bordering on a sensation, and it came down to Harry's porch in a slow spiral out of a sky that had gone very orange in the last 10 minutes. It had a heavy envelope tied to its ankle with a small scarlet ribbon, which meant Hermione. Harry, who had been sitting on the porch with Bella, did not stand up. He held out his arm. The owl landed on it. The owl, which was one of the ministries, accepted a strip of jerky from his pocket with professional dignity, allowed him to untie the letter, and flew away. Bella, beside him on the step, did not move. She watched the owl go. She watched the envelope. "That's a real owl." "It is." Is it? It was trained to me." "That's so cool." "Don't say that in front of Hermione." "Why? She will be pleased." "She will not stop being pleased for a week." "Harry." "Yes, open it." He opened it. The parchment was cream. The seal was red. The handwriting, which he knew better than his own, was small and neat and tight and had, as usual, overflowed onto the back of the page. "Harry, I don't know how to start this letter, which is why I have written it 4 times. I will start with the practical parts, because the practical parts are easier. Rodolphus arrived in the arrival chamber at precisely 6:02 a.m. GMT on the morning of the 19th, which means your portkey worked. He was immediately secured, medically checked, fed, and, at Kingsley's request, interviewed by 4 Aurors in the order you and I had discussed 2 years ago. He has been a good deal more cooperative than any of us expected. I think this is because you did not kill him, which puzzles him, which he is, I think, taking as a personal insult. This is a useful insult. He has given us 3 names. We expect all 3 of them to be in custody by the end of the month. The ring you took off his hand has been delivered to Kingsley's office, where it will be destroyed this Friday during a scheduled waning moon. I was in the chamber last night when Kingsley read off its registry number. It was one of the original 14. This is a very big deal. I think he is going to write you a personal letter about it. Try to be gracious when he does. Don't say thank you 3 times in a row. You always say thank you 3 times in a row and it embarrasses him. Now the personal part. I have read your last 2 letters carefully. I have read between the lines even more carefully. I recognize, I think, what you are becoming, which is a young man with a life in a place nobody is looking. I approve. I approve especially of the part where you stopped a van with your hand, because Ron, who read the letter over my shoulder, laughed until he cried, and I haven't heard him do that since July. I would like to come to America. I would like to come for 2 weeks. I would like to arrive approximately 3 weeks from today, which is, by your time, around the 15th. I would like to bring no one. Ron is understanding about this. He is hosting George, who needs him more than I do at the moment. I would like to stay in your guest room if there is one, and if there isn't, in the best hotel the town has, which I am told is a bed-and-breakfast run by a woman named Linnea. I would like to meet your friend. I would like to meet her parents if she has 1 or 2 handy. I would like to meet the vampires you have not been exactly forthcoming about in your letters, but whom Ron and I have nevertheless deduced, because we are not idiots. I would like to meet the wolf boy if he is permitted to be met. I would like to eat your cooking. Most of all, I would like to see you. Please write back and say yes. Do not equivocate. You equivocate. Your friend Hermione. P.S. Ron says hello. He says to tell you that Percy is being made a section head, which I know you will enjoy. P.P.S. I am going to land on the 15th at 11 a.m. at a place called Port Angeles. I would appreciate it if you met me at the airport. I have never taken a Muggle flight in my life, and I understand the experience is considerable. Bella leaned in to read over his shoulder. She did not say anything for a moment. Her name is Hermione. Yes, she's like you. She's my oldest friend. She's like the best of me and less tired and with a much better filing system. Harry, yes, I'm nervous. You shouldn't be. You don't know what it's like to be 17 and meet a... I know exactly what it's like. Hermione will be gentle. She will write a 12-page pamphlet about you after she leaves. I'll let you read it. You'll like it. What if I don't like her? You'll like her. Harry, you will. Okay. They sat in the last of the light. The sun, behind the cedars, went out in a slow orange fade. The porch boards cooled under them. Above them, the stars began. Orion had not yet risen. Cassiopeia was high on the east ridge. A small, very thin moon, a sickle, not yet a crescent, sat low over the river. A long way off, toward La Push, a single wolf howled, and another answered it, and a third, and then the forest went quiet again in the easy, listening way of a forest that has been told that the people who live in it are safe for the night. Bella tucked her hands in her sleeves. Cold. Here. He pulled his coat around both her shoulders. They were quiet a while. She said, eventually, quiet. Harry? Yes. Don't go anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. I know, but say it. I'm not going anywhere. Okay, Bella. Yes, you too. No, I'm also not going anywhere. I'm not going to say it like you said it. I'll say it mine. All right, say it yours. You're here for as long as I am. That's how I'll say it. That's how you'll say it. Yes, all right. She turned her head. She kissed him. It was a quieter kiss than any of the others had been. It was the kiss of 2 people who had decided, without discussing it, that they were going to find out what the rest of the year looked like before they decided what the rest of their lives did. It was not a promise. It was not a declaration. It was, in the small, honest way of the best kisses, a yes now, yes this. He lifted her hand very gently and she let him, and when he took her hand in his, her fingers closed on their own around the black stone of the resurrection ring on his right ring finger. The ring caught faintly the lamplight from the hallway, her thumb resting on it stilled. Harry, it's all right. Is he? No, he isn't. Not tonight. Not unless I call. I haven't called him in 3 years. I don't need to tonight. Tonight I have you. she said nothing. Her hand stayed on his over the ring for a long time, and the two of them sat, wrapped together in the one coat in the cold, with the thin moon over the cedars and the first real stars coming out, and the road down the 101 quiet, and the Swan house in town warm with one lit kitchen window. And the Cullen house across the river with its lamps on, and Jacob Black at First Beach not far from his father's hearth, and Hermione Granger 3 weeks away in a hot kitchen in London writing another letter, and every door in Harry Potter's new, small, ordinary life unlocked and standing. For tonight, at last, open,